Chapter 1634. A large number of Lu Rinfeng cyborgs poured out from every corner of the forbidden laboratory. As if they had been prepared beforehand, they appeared in the corridors and filled them up like sardines, like a subway during the morning rush hour. Wang Ying raised an arm and grabbed a Lu Rinfeng's throat from a distance, then gently squeezed her hand. In an instant, the heads of these cyborgs rolled to the ground like watermelons. Then, these dead cyborgs were quickly replaced by new cyborgs. They had the same faces as Lu Rinfeng, but they didn't have the slightest emotion. Seeing their companions fall to the ground, the surviving cyborgs around them would pick up the broken parts and throw them into the recycling tunnels of the forbidden laboratory. Wang Ying didn't know how many doppelgangers the real Lu Rinfeng had created for herself, but judging from the wave after wave, there were definitely tens of thousands of them. Sun Yinger, how many did this crazy woman create for herself? Wang Ying, it seems that this woman has an emergency plan. It's possible that she wants to open the door to the infinite secret realm from the front. But I heard earlier that it won't be easy to open the entrance to this secret realm. It requires a large amount of spirit energy, Lotus Sun said. Indeed, there aren't many people who can open the entrance to this secret realm on their own. At that moment, Wang Ying thought of something. But it's different if there are many of them. I think it's better to report this to Battle Sect as soon as possible. Let's not get involved in what happens next. Let's just wait for things to end smoothly. He was Wang Ling's shadow, and their minds were connected. Just before he said this, he also knew at the same time that it was the truth. That man was finally ready to make his move. Wang Ying's appearance was a huge surprise for Lu Rinfeng. She hadn't expected to be stopped by a youngster who had suddenly appeared just as she was about to open the infinite secret realm. But fortunately, she still had an emergency plan. As long as her original body wasn't found, she hadn't lost this battle yet. In Shou Chang's private laboratory, several cyborgs Lu Rinfeng were in complete control. Ha! Junior brother Wulong, long time no see. Lu Rinfeng linked her original body's will to the brain tissue of one of the cyborgs, thus temporarily controlling it. When the androids rushed in, Shouchong realized that the situation was not good. There was an emergency escape button in his laboratory. Just as he was about to press it, one of the androids kicked his abdomen, shattering his dream on the spot. Senior sister, you can't keep making mistakes. Are you willing to call me senior sister now? Lu Rinfeng couldn't help but laugh out loud. An artificial spirit root is my lifelong dream. Now that I've obtained this core technology, all I need to do is find the materials in that arcane realm. According to Lu Rinfeng's original plan, she had planned to use Jiang Yingying to analyze the key to the infinite arcanum and enter through the back door. But this plan had just been ruined because of Wang Ying. Right now, Lu Rinfeng had to activate the emergency plan. That was to break through the concealed zone head-on by using a defensive method. She had been secretly observing Shou Chang's private laboratory for a long time. She also knew that Shou Chang's current plan was to break through from the front. However, it was not easy to open the door of the infinite secret realm. This required a one-time injection of spiritual energy that far exceeded the current level of the cultivators on Earth. Even that senior behind her couldn't provide such an explosive output of spirit power in a short period of time. Senior sister, you should know that you're already surrounded, right? You have nowhere to retreat to. Shou Chong said, Battle Sect. And those sky-level sect leaders have already surrounded your laboratory so tightly that not even a drop of water can trickle through. Do you think I'm completely unaware of what's going on outside? At that moment, Lu Rinfeng laughed again. As long as my real body hasn't been found, I haven't lost yet. What's more, do you think I didn't anticipate this situation? Huaxiu Alliance has been watching me for a long time. It can be said that I expected them to surround my laboratory in the northern suburbs. Of course, if I had to make a mistake, it would be that I really didn't expect so many people to come. That was what she said. But in fact, she was still suppressing a lot of anger in her heart. Because of what had happened outside, including the Intelligence Department's mistaken capture of Lotus Sunday. She only found out about it after her mental link with number 010 Lu Renfeng had been severed because of Wang Ying. If it hadn't been for Wang Ying, she might still be in the dark. Who knew what this bunch of good-for-nothings in the Intelligence Department were doing? They could even capture a little girl by mistake. As for the large numbers of the Cultivator Alliance army surrounding the northern suburbs, Lu Renfeng was indeed surprised. But she wasn't flustered at all. Instead, there was a look of excitement on her face that made Shou Chong feel extremely uneasy. It doesn't matter if there are more people, the more people there are, the better it is for me. Lu Renfeng's second plan was to take advantage of Huaxiao Alliance's encirclement and suppression to use these cultivators' spirit power to forcibly break through the main entrance to the Infinity's secret realm. But the second plan actually had its risks. If Huaxiao Alliance didn't send enough people, even if she had a way to squeeze these cultivators dry of their spirit power, it might not be enough to pry open the door to the Infinity's secret realm. But now, she felt that the situation was different. Hundreds of thousands of the Cultivator Alliance army were now surrounding Phoenix Sun's laboratory in the northern suburbs. The ordinary cultivators who had come as reinforcements were at the Golden Core stage at the very least. Not to mention the sky-level sect leaders who were in the circle. Senior sister, don't tell me you want to. At that moment, Shou Chong's expression changed dramatically as he finally realized what on earth Lu Renfeng was up to. He. Lu Renfeng continued to cover her mouth and chuckle through the android. The heavens are truly on my side. In order to rescue that Miss Lotus Sun, they had actually sent so many people without thinking. If the final result of this battle was to go for wool and come home shorn, I think this Huaxiao Alliance's prestige will be swept away. At that moment, in the battle's Sect's command center, all the members of the Alliance army participating in this battle had turned into dense red dots on the satellite map on a huge screen. From a commander's point of view, Cone had never commanded such a rich battle in his previous 8 lifetimes. But for such a large number of Alliance soldiers to be placed in his hands alone was a test of his ability to withstand pressure and command. He looked at the blinking light markers on the map and frowned slightly. Dao Monarch, I think something's wrong. Our Alliance army has already formed a dumpling encirclement. But Lu Renfeng's side isn't putting up the slightest resistance. I can't help but feel that there's some kind of conspiracy behind this. As expected of the senior monarch's chosen one. Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch smiled, looking relaxed and content. This. Dao Monarch has already discovered it. Cone was speechless. At the end of the day, this Auntie Lu just wanted to enter the secret realm to steal materials. Now her real body is nowhere to be found, and a large number of androids are pouring out of the Forbidden Zone laboratory. There's no point in catching those androids. Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch said, there's a saying, close the door and beat the dog. To use a more cultured term, it's like catching a turtle in a jar. Cone, Dao Monarch, you mean? Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch smiled. Just let the Alliance army beat them at their own game. Because at that moment, a pretty boy had already entered the Infinite Secret Realm ahead of time. He was waiting at that entrance for Lu Renfeng's real body to come in, of course, in order not to delay his homework. This pretty boy even moved his desk over and wrote while he waited. Chapter 1635. Although he had said that he didn't want to get involved in this matter, he had never thought that in the end, he would still get involved. He really wasn't thinking about any of this. His mind was full of homework, exercises, and the upcoming monthly exam. But he didn't know why. His body started to move involuntarily. He knew that Lu Renfeng had come for the Infinite Secret Realm, so the easiest way to find her real body was to wait for her. Now that the secret realm had finally been opened, her real body would definitely show itself and take a look. Another advantage was that apart from him, there was no one else at the entrance to the secret realm, which would give him a cover to hide his strength and fame. It would be too high profile and troublesome to follow the team to capture Lu Renfeng's real body. It would be better to wait for this crazy grandma to walk right into the trap. Thus, he decided to enter the infinite secret realm right away. But he had heard that it wasn't easy to open the infinite secret realm, and that a huge amount of spirit energy was needed to open the door. For this reason, Shouchong and Lu Renfeng had racked their brains to find a way to open the infinite secret realm. Wang Ling believed it. He used his king's eye to lock onto the coordinates of the secret realm's entrance. Then, a magnificent gate to the infinite secret realm appeared in front of him. The ancient door frame was densely covered in abstruse runes that Wang Ling had never seen before. There were too many secret realms in the universe to count. After all, Wang Ling was just a kid, and hadn't visited all of them. In order to explore a secret realm and obtain immortal opportunities to improve their cultivation, ordinary cultivators were all determined to rush in, for fear that if they were one step too late, the treasures in the secret realm would be snatched away by someone else. But Wang Ling was different. He wasn't interested in secret realms, because everything in them could be found in his Wang Zhibao pants. Thus, he didn't know much about the infinite secret realm. He had heard from Shouchong and Lu Renfeng that it would take a huge amount of spirit power to enter. Faced with the gate to the infinite secret realm, Wang Ling had a serious expression on his face. Then, he rolled up his sleeves and violently pushed the door inward. There was a loud bang. Wang Ling saw the gate to the infinite secret realm collapse with a loud bang. Not only that, even the door frame was cracked. Sure enough, he had thought too much. He had clearly only used a little bit of his strength, only the heavens knew that the gate to the mystic realm could not withstand the pressure. Thus, before moving the desk into the entrance of the secret land, he had also used the great repair spell to repair the door that had been torn down so that everything looked so natural. In the Battle Sex Command Center, Wang Ling's "catch a turtle in a jar" was fully deployed under Keon's encrypted instructions. His face was flushed, and there was a tinge of nervousness in his excitement. Large-scale command was a great test of one's ability to command. The Alliance Army's operation this time looked like it had been organized to rescue Lotus Sun, but Huaxiao Alliance actually had other considerations. From a 1,000-layer cake perspective, the second layer on Huaxiao Alliance's side naturally wanted to capture Lu Renfeng alive. If this crazy grandmother used her creative ability on the right path, she would indeed be a promising talent. Third, Huaxiao Alliance wanted to use Battle Sect as a medium to see the ultimate scale and combat ability of the Alliance Army. This was purely from the perspective of a cultivation strategic deployment. Huaxiao Alliance had always advocated a love of peace. Every year, the profits it generated were used for the construction of cultivation infrastructure, and only a small portion was invested in military defense. The current mainstream view in the cultivation world was that military defense could in fact be replaced in another way. For example, they could unite private sects among the people and turn them into one family. Just like the current Alliance Army. But it would be a little too formal to organize such a large-scale Alliance Army in the name of Huaxiao Alliance's people. So at this time, the necessity of Battle Sect's existence manifested itself. When grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had gone to pull in investments back then, Huaxiao Alliance had decided to invest because of this consideration. The Sky-level sects had joined together to block the development of the Earth-level and Black-level sects below them. This kind of behavior was very detrimental to the operation and development of private sections. Thus, at this time, a super sect that could surpass Sky level was needed to set an example and form an unshakable force in all aspects. In the end, it would become a hemp rope that would tightly link the other sects together. Thus, the overall planning and coordination of sects in the cultivation world was also a subject of study. Of course, for a sect to develop, it definitely wouldn't be enough to rely on funds alone, it also needed a certain amount of talent. Take the Alliance Army this time for example. Through this small-scale Alliance Army battle, the secret mission that Cowan and Crispy Noodles had received was to unearth cultivators who could be used in the cultivation world. Most of these talents were still buried, and their current value could only be discovered by Bo Lu. Once Cowan and Crispy Noodles DAO Monarch locked onto a candidate, they would only record it down first. Next, it was up to the sect's Ministry of Commerce to communicate and negotiate the transfer of disciples between sections. Nowadays, Battle's sect was rich and overbearing. In theory, as long as they had enough money, there was no one they couldn't negotiate with. Has Mr. Cowan discovered any outstanding seedlings? Crispy Noodles DAO Monarch asked as he looked at the screen in front of him in front of the command platform. No, not for the time being. Cowan shook his head. Looking at the few cameras that were switching now, it didn't seem like he had taken a fancy to anyone at first glance. The cultivators in the Alliance army were generally relatively young, and their average realm was at the Golden Core stage. The Golden Core stage actually didn't seem like much of a trick. The most important thing was that although the northern suburb laboratory had been surrounded, the attack order hadn't been issued yet. Without a fight, it was very hard to determine the value of these cultivators. What do you think, Crispy Noodles DAO Monarch? Cowan asked at that moment. I found one. Crispy Noodles DAO Monarch's gaze fell on a young cultivator on the screen. After that, the system's smart tracking system directly focused on this person and scanned him accurately. Very quickly, this young cultivator's name appeared on the screen on the right. Heavenly Spring Sect, Li Huaxian, Heavenly Spring Sect. Cowan frowned. This sect's ranking was pretty low. Because it was just a black-level sect. The attack order hasn't been issued yet, and it's very bad for one's mentality. Look at this person, he's neither arrogant nor impetuous, and his face is always indifferent. This state of mind is already very rare, Crispy Noodles DAO Monarch said. Of course, his words were pure nonsense. Given his eyesight, he could pretty much see through these cultivators with one sweep of his eyes. As Wang Ling's real clone, Crispy Noodles had a natural ability to read people. But this ability couldn't be explained clearly. So he had to find a reason to explain it. In the cultivation world, the most illusory reason was state of mind. At first, it sounded very mysterious, but it also seemed to make some sense. It was like the horoscope and psychological tests on the market. This was also known as the Barnum effect. Chapter 1636. The strategic reserve of talents was something that every sect would do, and the key was whether the two sides of the transaction valued talents enough. There were times when some small sects would let go of a big fish for the sake of temporary benefits. Li Huaxian was a talent personally hand-picked by Crispy Noodles DAO Monarch, so Kyo naturally wasn't worried about him in all aspects. However, compared to the other sects, it was not an easy task for the Battle sect to poach them. How could a super sect possibly take a fancy to a disciple from a profound sect? If we were to poach him too openly, we would only alert the enemy and tell them that this Li Huaxian is a rare talent and that our worst sect is definitely going to have him. This way, Li Huaxian's value would be raised to an extremely high level in a short period of time, and in the end, it would put the war sect in a passive situation. Have you thought about the matter of poaching people, Immortal? I don't think it's easy, Kun said as he stared at Li Huaxian on the screen. Little Silver, Crispy Noodles DAO Monarch said bluntly. Little Silver. Team Leader Ian. Actually, Keon didn't know much about Little Silver. He hadn't been in the Battle sect for a long time, so he didn't know many of the sect's elders and disciples. But he did know this, Team Leader Ian. This was a member of the War sect's core team, and he was in charge of the matters regarding the Spirit Beast group. Furthermore, he knew that this leader Ian had been living at grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's place the entire time before Battle sect had its own Spirit Beast Peak. Even now, after the completion of the Spirit Beast Peak, it was said that this mysterious and unfathomable team leader Ian still liked to stay at his old place. Leader Ian, can he do it? He always seems very aloof. Kun didn't know Little Silver well, so Crispy Noodles couldn't help laughing when he heard this. Little Silver, aloof. Of course, that did not exist, in the entire battle sect, apart from Lingzhenren, was there anyone more lively and adorable than Little Silver? Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch admitted that he didn't. The natural affinity of a holy beast was the key to Little Silver's negotiation. Moreover, as the leader of the Spirit Beast group, most of the time he went to other sects, he would be aiming for the Spirit Beast exchange. Basically, it was very difficult for people to think that he was here to poach people. Well, perfected monarch, of course you have your own considerations. Just watch the show, said Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch. He counted with his fingers and stared at the screen in front of him. It should be about time. Lu Renfeng would probably be tempted. The underground passageways of Phoenix's laboratory extended in all directions. Lu Renfeng's original purpose in designing this was to establish an encrypted passageway into the underground, and it was also out of consideration for the layout of Plan Number 2. These underground tunnels extended for a very long distance. At this moment, all the android Lu Renfeng came out in full force, each carrying a spirit stone and an array flag. Both Li Xian and Zhang Ziden cast invisibility spells on themselves and looked down from the sky. He could clearly see the layout of the androids after Lu Renfeng passed through various secret passages. The outermost layer of this secret passage was a very standard circle. Without even looking, one could tell that it was an array disk. It was just that Lu Renfeng would not be able to set up such a large array formation with her own strength. Energy formation of all illumination. Li Xian carefully observed the layout and details of the formation, and soon associated it with the origin of this formation. This was a spirit-gathering formation that could absorb the spirit energy of all the cultivators inside it, and was divided into two types, voluntary contribution and forced extraction. If a cultivator standing inside the formation voluntarily contributed, he only needed to raise his hands above his head. But Lu Renfeng obviously wouldn't do that. In order to open the infinite secret realm, she could only force extraction. Looks like it's confirmed. Zhang Ziden said, this Lu Renfeng really has an ancient brother behind her, but I don't know who this brother is. I remember that the energy formation of all illumination was developed by the Heartless Ancestor, and it said that he only passed it on to his disciples. But the Heartless Ancestor himself is now locked up in the corpse-wrapping painting. The corners of Li Xian's mouth twitched, and he said rather helplessly, and that guy used to say every day that he wanted to take a disciple, but so far I've never heard who his disciple is. Speaking of the Heartless Ancestor, he was also an all-powerful powerhouse in ancient times. But unfortunately, the Heartless Ancestor had a small problem, and that was that he was very stingy. There was a banquet where the Heartless Ancestor invited everyone, including Dao Ancestor Wang. In order to save money, he bought a lot of fake wine from a wine merchant and only let Dao Ancestor Wang drink the real wine. In the end, Dao Ancestor Wang's wine gourd was somehow switched at the banquet. Then, there were only 5 sounds of dun, 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 and the gourd of fake wine was drunk by Dao Ancestor Wang. And then, there was no, and then, Dao Ancestor Wang, who had drunk the fake wine, put the Heartless Ancestor and the wine merchant into the corpse-wrapping painting on the spot. Looking back at that period of history, Li Xian couldn't help but sigh. Why did you provoke such a good person? At this moment, there was a sudden exclamation on the battlefield in the northern suburbs, which had been silent for a long time. What's this? Some cultivators noticed that something was wrong, and the expressions on the faces of those sky-level sect masters all looked terrified. It's a big formation. A big formation that can cover the northern suburbs. What? How could Lu Renfeng have the ability to set up such a big formation? Each and every one of them looked panic-stricken, which stupefied Keon in the command center. Because this was all within the scope of the plan, in the end, he hadn't expected these sky-level sect masters and their disciples to be so good at acting. At that moment, each and every one of them contributed their outstanding acting skills to the fullest. My spirit energy is being sucked out. No, I can feel my life slipping away. the cultivators trapped in the formation cried out one after another, their expressions as if they were about to die. In fact, their spirit energy hadn't been sucked out. The spirit energy that Lu Renfeng had absorbed had all been provided by Wang Ling. At that moment, he was crouching at the entrance to the secret land. As he read the exercises in front of him, he raised both hands to transmit his spirit energy over. It's done. Lu Renfeng, who was guarding the lab, looked pleasantly surprised through the android. The amount of spirit energy that the array had absorbed was too much. It was far beyond his imagination. Ha 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 ha. She couldn't stop laughing wildly. I never thought that I, Lu Renfeng, would actually succeed. The cultivation world will soon welcome a new generation of phoenix chicks. That will be the beginning of a new era for me, Lu Renfeng. As soon as his voice fell, the controlled android quickly regained its silence. It looked like Lu Renfeng had already withdrawn the mental link with her real body and was ready to act on her own. Shou Chong was pressed down on the ground by several androids and couldn't move. At that moment, all his hopes were dashed, and he only felt that the situation was hopeless. Bzzzt. There was a bang. When the entrance to the secret land opened at the location which Lu Renfeng had set in advance, this crazy woman rubbed her hands together and couldn't hide the excitement on her face as she stepped in. She thought that when she opened the door, she would see a dazzling new world. In the end, what she saw was a teenager doing homework at a desk. Lu Renfeng laughed. I never thought that there would be a doorman in this infinite secret land. At that moment, Wang Ling raised his head to look at her. After confirming that this was Lu Renfeng's real body, he used just one look to firmly block the door to the secret land behind Lu Renfeng. In that instant, a terrifying pressure extinguished all of Lu Renfeng's excitement. Wait, this situation didn't seem right. Chapter 1637. The truth was that Wang Ling wasn't in a hurry to exert pressure on her, he just raised his gaze to meet Lu Renfeng's indifferent gaze. In that moment, this young Madame Phoenix's mind instantly went blank. She was so shocked that she couldn't speak. She didn't understand what was happening in front of her. She felt as if she had stepped into an abyss the moment she stepped into the mystic realm. She was clearly being stared at by a young man who looked like a high school student. How could she, Madame Phoenix, feel fear? Lu Renfeng couldn't believe what she was seeing. She had chased after the infinite mystic realm for far too long. Now that she had finally made it in, her path was blocked by a young man. Lu Renfeng could not accept this fact no matter what. I will never kill those boys who are good-looking. Lu Renfeng stared at the pressure and said. As she spoke, she deliberately avoided Wang Ling's gaze. That was the only way she could be a little more normal. Although at this moment, her body was still trembling uncontrollably. Wang Ling could see that Lu Renfeng actually had a backup plan. As a well-known underground scientist both at home and abroad, Madame Phoenix definitely wasn't unprepared for the fact that she dared to appear in her true form. Battle Sect and Huaxiao Alliance's request was to capture Lu Renfeng alive, so Wang Ling naturally had to be careful not to go overboard. If he killed her, it wouldn't be easy to clean up the mess. Thus, Wang Ling continued to stare at Lu Renfeng, intending to watch the ants dance and see what on earth Lu Renfeng would perform next. Child, I only need the materials in this mystic realm. With these materials and my skills, I can become the richest person in the world. At this moment, Lu Renfeng's tone changed, and she actually began to walk the gentle path. If you don't stop me, I can guarantee you a luxurious life for the rest of your life. You look young, so there should be a lot of things you want to buy, right? If possible, Lu Renfeng also hoped that they wouldn't start a fight here. She didn't know Wang Ling's background, nor did she know how he had come to this infinite secret realm. But one thing was certain, Wang Ling was very young. On Lu Renfeng, there was an AI intelligent analysis system in her body. While Lu Renfeng and Wang Ling were talking, she had already scanned Wang Ling's face and found the corresponding answer from the big data in the National Treasury. Although he did not know why the photo was a bunch of mosaics, however, the information indeed showed that the young man in front of him was only at the foundation establishment stage. Of course, Lu Renfeng was well aware that Wang Ling was probably hiding his true realm. Otherwise, why would he make her feel so oppressed? How interesting. He's just a 16-year-old boy, but he actually has the battle prowess of a soul formation cultivator. After the initial panic, Lu Renfeng, who had obtained the data, revealed a hint of excitement in her heart. A 16-year-old youth with the combat power of a soul formation cultivator, if this matter were to be spread, it would definitely cause an uproar in the world. However, she was not prepared to reveal this matter. Instead, he came up with a new plan. If she could trick Wang Ling, or defeat him here, Wang Ling wouldn't be able to escape. Then, she would cut open Wang Ling's stomach and take out his spirit root for research. Finally, she would use the core technology of artificial spirit root to replicate it. Then, soon, she would have an army of soul formation stage cultivators in her hands. The more Lu Renfeng thought about it, the more excited she became. The corners of her mouth couldn't help but curl up crazily. Therefore, after a short period of consideration, she changed her previous offensive strategy and decided to use the temptation of benefits to see if she could make a breakthrough. Because after her AI analysis, she was sure that Wang Ling was indeed only 16 years old. Although there were countless elixirs and magic treasures for beauty enhancement in the cultivation world nowadays, the rising sun chi that belonged to a young man couldn't be deceived. The older a cultivator was, the less rising sun chi they had. This was a special way of distinguishing between young cultivators. Even though he was a genius at the soul formation stage, he was only 16 years old in the end. She felt that given Wang Ling's state of mind, he might not be able to withstand the temptation of this colorful world. Child, I'm old enough to be your grandmother, so I really don't want to fight you. With you. Lu Renfeng smiled and said, you should have a lot of things you want to buy, right? No matter what kind of magic treasure or luxury goods you like, as long as you like them, I can buy them for you. Apart from these, real estate, cars, toys, beautiful women, if you're willing to cooperate with me, you can choose whatever you want. There are also countless snacks. Hearing the word snacks, Wang Ling blinked. A drop of cold sweat trickled down his cheek as he cursed in his heart. He had actually been a little shaken just now. But very quickly, Wang Ling regained his composure. Fortunately, he always had a poker face, so even if Lu Renfeng used her smart chi to directly scan and analyze his face, she wouldn't be able to detect any subtle changes. Because of Wang Ling's long silence, the situation was once again at an impasse. He's not going to accept these temptations. Lu Renfeng also felt that it was inconceivable. She hadn't expected Wang Ling's Dao heart to be so stable. However, in a situation where she couldn't tempt him, she only had one last option left. Lu Renfeng didn't know where on earth Wang Ling had come from. But if a mere soul formation cultivator wanted to stop her, he was looking down on her, the young Madame Phoenix, too much. Since negotiations have failed, Grandma has no other choice. You're my grandson, so Grandma will try to be as gentle as possible when I make a move. Wang Ling, while she was speaking, Lu Renfeng stretched out her hand, and a light condensed in her palm. Wang Ling noticed that Lu Renfeng had a special ring on her finger. This was a spatial magic treasure that used space-folding techniques. Unlike those storage rings, this ring could transfer items from a designated space to another space through a folding technique. And then... BZZT. The instant the light from the ring spread out, the space that resonated with it actually formed vortex wormholes in the walls of the void. In a short period of time, countless mechanical crawlers poured out of the wormholes. These mechanical crawlers swarmed out of space like locusts, spreading their mechanical wings and flying in the air. After Lu Renfeng clapped her hands, the mechanical crawlers instantly spread out and took root in the ground like dense raindrops. "Magic bean soldiers," Lu Renfeng said calmly. Wang Ling saw these mechanical crawlers actually take root and sprout in this short period of time. In just a few seconds, this young Madam Phoenix swiftly summoned countless Lu Renfengs from the ground with the bean soldiers technique. Wang Ling could only estimate the number. At that moment, there were no less than 300,000 artificial humans gathered in the secret land. But no matter how many there were, they were just a bunch of scrap metal in Wang Ling's eyes. Seeing that Wang Ling's expression was still calm, Lu Renfeng couldn't help saying at that moment, "I know that my artificial humans might not be able to deal with you. But if everyone's strength can be combined, that's a different story." As soon as Lu Renfeng said this, she stretched out her hand and gently squeezed. Wang Ling saw these artificial humans actually start to transform on the spot. Holding each other's hands, they swiftly linked together and merged into one, actually transforming into an incomparably huge red mecha armor. Lu Renfeng's real body was already sitting inside this 50-meter-tall mecha armor during this transformation process. This Fire Phoenix mecha armor was Lu Renfeng's proudest creation. Using artificial spirit roots as a medium, the mecha's attributes would be amplified by 300,000 times. That was to say, as long as she sat in this mecha armor, even grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, who was currently the strongest person on Earth and had reached the true venerated level, wouldn't be her match. On the other side, after hearing Lu Renfeng's thoughts, Wang Ling couldn't help sighing in his heart. He had never expected this young Madam Phoenix to actually compare herself to grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. After all, for him, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was just a unit of combat strength. At that moment, the huge Fire Phoenix mecha armor blotted out the sky and covered Wang Ling like a boundless shadow. In the face of this mountain-like mecha armor, Wang Ling's mind suddenly went blank. It wasn't that he was afraid. It was that he didn't know where on earth he should start. Chapter 1638. In the space of a few breaths, Lu Renfeng had used the so-called bean soldiers method to assemble such a large army of androids, and in the blink of an eye, they had swiftly assembled into this 50-meter-tall mecha armor in front of Wang Ling. It wasn't hard for Wang Ling to see that Lu Renfeng had clearly been preparing for today's event for a long time. It was almost impossible to mass-produce androids of this scale in a short period of time, and it would take time. On the other hand, these androids weren't cheap. Given Lu Renfeng's accumulated foundation, Wang Ling felt that it would be very difficult for her to produce androids of this scale without the help of someone else. This was a woman who was afraid of poverty. Her words were filled with the evil flavor of capitalism. Wang Ling could see that Lu Renfeng wanted to use this to turn things around. With the almost inexhaustible resources in Infinite Secret Realm, she would be able to build her own army of androids, and then vigorously develop an industrial chain for artificial spirit roots, which would go down in the annals of modern cultivation history. At that moment, Wang Ling sighed silently in his heart. It was a pity that this young Madam Phoenix had run into him. It was one thing for her to make some money, but Wang Ling didn't quite understand why some people just had to provoke him. In the air, Lu Renfeng's real body was linked to the Fire Phoenix mecha armor's spiritual will. She didn't need to use any buttons to control it, she just needed to place both hands on the special psychic pilot seat, and she could control it as one. The massive Fire Phoenix mecha armor was a little more agile than Wang Ling had imagined. In the sky above the primeval forest of Infinite Secret Realm, the melodious sound of a subwoofer cannon came from the Fire Phoenix mecha armor. Rather than calling it a song, it would be more accurate to call it a low and deep phoenix cry. Then, two projectile blades more than 10 meters wide popped out from the back of the mecha armor's arms. Accompanied by the subwoofer cannon song, the fiery red projectile blades were covered in a layer of red spirit light. This was a combination spell that combined sound waves with a magical effect, and was similar to the roar of some spirit beasts before a battle. At this particular frequency, apart from being able to produce a magical effect, it could also affect things around the battlefield. Lu Renfeng wanted to capture Wang Ling alive, which was why she had used this method. Under certain conditions, a phoenix cry of this particular frequency could induce hallucinations. Furthermore, she had already rearranged the frequency of the phoenix cry based on Wang Ling's current realm. He was sure that this was a sound wave that could suppress a soul formation cultivator. But in the face of such a powerful sound wave, Wang Ling's expression didn't change at all. He's not affected at all. Lu Renfeng was astonished. Then, he saw the young man, who was the size of an ant, standing on his tiptoes and ascending over 100 meters into the air before stopping. At the same time, the void changed, and Lu Renfeng saw her surroundings changing rapidly. The battlefield above the primeval jungle of the infinite mystery land was quickly transformed into the endless and deep universe. Lu Renfeng could see the Milky Way and even Earth, which was not far away. This wasn't a universe of the real world, but one that Wang Ling had constructed, and could be said to be a complete replica of the real world's universe. It was because there were no other living beings in this universe. Intrinsic spirit field. Within the fiery phoenix mecha, Lu Renfeng's eyes widened, and she was completely astonished by the boundless universe and the dazzling galaxy before her. She knew about the existence of intrinsic spirit fields. But she didn't know that the place she had been pulled into was the core world, which was even more powerful than an intrinsic spirit field. Although the fiery phoenix mecha was huge, it was as tiny as an ant in the backdrop of the universe. Although she was sitting in the mecha, her brain felt like it had stopped working. It was at this moment that Lu Renfeng realized with a start that Wang Ling's strength might be far beyond what she had imagined. "Who the hell are you?" Her voice started to tremble, and she started to launch a frenzied attack. In her helpless rage, 2 enchanted projectile blades shot out at an extremely high speed at the speed of sound to slash at Wang Ling's head. Wang Ling stood motionless on the spot. The 2 projectile blades attacked from left and right. The moment they struck his head, not even a single hair fell off his head, while the blades had already shattered into pieces. Lu Renfeng hadn't expected to be hit so hard. In her extreme panic, the fiery phoenix mecha fired even more fiercely at Wang Ling from all its outlets. Boom! 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 For a moment, Wang Ling's core world was filled with all kinds of explosions. The fiery phoenix mecha contained folded nanomissiles, which was also a black technology developed by Lu Renfeng. Even the explosive power of a nuclear bomb was only the size of a grain of rice, so the fiery phoenix mecha had a huge reserve of ammunition. Wang Ling didn't want to open the barrier at first, but after all, it wasn't worth it to dirty his school uniform, so he put up a spirit power field for himself. The nanomissiles bombarded the extremely thin barrier without even the slightest crack. Impossible. This is impossible. It was obvious that Lu Renfeng was already a little crazy. She clutched her head with a terrified expression on her face. Then, a dazzling holy light appeared behind Wang Ling. Lu Renfeng, this is, defeating the other party in the field they were most confident in was Wang Ling's usual method. That god of the grave had thought that he controlled time and space, but he had been locked in a fixed ending forever. He could jump out of time and space, but he couldn't escape the ending that Wang Ling had personally arranged for him. Just like the Lu Renfeng in front of him, being soldiers. It was obvious that this was one of Lu Renfeng's proudest skills. In a short period of time, through the combination of nanotechnology and cultivation space folding technology, androids with fleshly bodies were instantly created. In the eyes of other cultivators, this would indeed seem to be quite an incredible thing. At that moment, Wang Ling was standing in his own core world. Immortal holy light radiated from his back as he stood firm, like a god of the universe. Then, there was a hum. With Wang Ling as its center, this holy light turned into a circular shock wave, like a huge ripple in the center of the universe, which instantly extended hundreds of millions of light years away. Then, Lu Rinfeng felt this dazzling light gradually dim. As this holy light dissipated, what appeared in front of Lu Rinfeng was an incomparably terrifying scene. In front of her, she saw countless Wonglings surrounding her. These clones that had been born from Wongling's body gave off cosmic starlight. Some were formed from meteorites, some were formed from stars, and most of them were formed from dust. Wongling's holy light turned all the dust within a radius of hundreds of millions of light years into himself. This was truly an innumerable number of Wongling's Wongling. It was impossible for her to tell them apart with the naked eye. Then, paw! There was a bang. Wongling snapped his fingers. The countless clones scattered like the wind, turning back into the trillions of dust particles in the universe. Lu Rinfeng was completely awake with this snap of Wongling's fingers. She thoroughly realized that her realm and that of the youngster in front of her weren't in the same dimension at all. Just like that. This underground scientist was the famous young phoenix madam, Lu Rinfeng. Her heart was shaken to the core. She stopped thinking. P.S. How many people have stopped thinking already? Everyone, please post your answers directly in this chapter. Those who get it right can contact Big Faced Cat, the administrator of the book group, for a small red packet. Chapter 1639. Under the double assault of sight and spirit, there was a certain probability that the soul would short-circuit. The fact that this famous underground scientist had stopped thinking and was no longer struggling was a great help in carrying out the plan to capture Wongling alive. But Wongling somehow felt that things weren't that simple. He raised his hand and carefully used the Great Decomposition spell to slowly disintegrate the Fire Phoenix mecha armor from the outside to expose Lu Rinfeng's body, which was hidden inside. At the same time, Wongling cast a temporary golden light of adaptation on Lu Rinfeng so that her body could withstand all the pressure in space. She was an itinerant immortal, but at this level, she still couldn't fight in space. Of course, it wasn't that Wongling hadn't thought about directly digging out her heart, but he was afraid that the impact would be too great and Lu Rinfeng would directly disappear. At this moment, Lu Rinfeng was still in her original position. She sat there with her eyes wide open. Her expression was frozen in fear, and she looked like she had been petrified. Then, Wongling had directly summoned Audjua here. As expected of Shifu. Honestly speaking, Audjua wasn't surprised by the situation in front of him after he appeared. He had already expected this outcome. "I'll leave her to you," Wongling said with a nod. "Don't worry, Shifu. Just leave the aftermath to me." Audjua cupped his fists in a salute. This wasn't the first time he had been the scapegoat, and he was already very used to it. The only fly in the ointment this time was that Zhou Zi hadn't been able to make a contribution in this battle or show his face in front of Wongling or something. Audjua was extremely optimistic about Zhou Zi and was willing to take him in as a disciple, but Wongling wouldn't budge, so there was nothing he could do. The man in front of him was no longer the man he used to be. Previously, a Crispy Noodle Snacks annual card had been enough. Bribing him with an annual card now probably wouldn't work. But he didn't show his thoughts in front of Wongling, and respectfully sent him off as usual before he stayed behind to deal with Lu Rinfeng. Wongling shared a portion of the King's Eye's power with Audjua. One reason was so that Audjua could freely use the King's Eye's ability to travel freely in various spaces, and the other was to increase his battle strength. Of course, when it came down to it, it would be better for Audjua to clean up the mess for him. Lu Rinfeng had seen Wongling's face, so she definitely had to tamper with this part of her memory, and she also had to change things about the core world. This was combat strength that had already surpassed Earth's realm. It would be very strange if Lu Rinfeng poured everything out when she woke up. Therefore, in the infinite mystic realm, he revised almost all of Lu Rinfeng's memories of the battle just now. After making sure that he did not miss anything, he heaved a sigh of relief. If Lu Rinfeng woke up now, the person she had been fighting wouldn't be Wongling, but Audjua. There should be no problem now. Zhuo wiped at his sweat. It wasn't his first time doing this, but he couldn't help feeling a little nervous. Tampering with memories could lead to mental disorder. Huaxiao Alliance had ordered Lu Rinfeng to be captured alive because they knew that she could still be of use to them. Battle Sect Command Center. The moment Lu Rinfeng's real body stepped into the infinite mystic realm, the Alliance army responsible for besieging the base finally blew the horn to attack. The members of the base in Phoenix's underground laboratory as well as Lu Rinfeng's androids were all stupefied. The spirit energy of these cultivators had clearly been sucked away by the great array just now, but at that moment, each and every one of them actually crawled up from the ground and directly announced that they were going to attack. F***K. So was that an act just now? The members of the underground base all had incredulous looks on their faces. Lu Rinfeng's real body was already under control, and the command center was left without a leader. In a split second, the entire underground laboratory that extended in all directions was a mess. Following Keone's intelligent deployment, the large-scale Alliance army surrounded the underground laboratory in an orderly manner. The capture operation lasted for several hours. Finally, he heaved a sigh of relief and collapsed with a tired expression. "It's finally over. No, there's actually one last step left," said Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch. The last step. Given Lu Rinfeng's strength alone, she shouldn't have the guts to take such a risky action, said Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch. Dao Monarch, do you mean that there's another force behind this? Crispy Noodles nodded. It actually wasn't convenient for him to explain too much to Keone, so he could only leave it at that. But you don't have to worry, you did a great job commanding the operation this time. Senior Li Xian and Senior Zhang Zipei can handle the rest. Are they the two new elders? Keone's eyes lit up. He had heard of these two people's names before. Because they had suddenly joined Battle Sect and become elders all at once, a lot of people were curious about their origins. In addition, after Li Xian and Zhang Zipei joined Battle Sect, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had given them the position of guest elder. It was equivalent to some honorary professors in cultivation universities. It sounded like they were from Battle Sect, but it was in fact just a title. But this name was actually directly hanging out his net worth. This was because Li Xian and Zhang Zipei were currently the only two elders in Battle Sect in name. Their names had been famous in ancient times, but they weren't known in the modern cultivation world. Now that they had become honorary elders all of a sudden, the many speculations undoubtedly deepened the mystery of these two people. While Keone and Crispy Noodles were giving instructions, Li Xian and Zhang Zipei were also looking for traces of the person behind the scenes. Following the lead of the All Things Illuminating Vitality array, the two of them found some clues based on the layout and technique of the array. Zhang Zizi smiled. Interesting. Interesting. From the technique, it does seem like the work of that heartless ancestor. If it's him, he indeed has the ability to launch that Thousand Faces spell. But he's clearly already been locked up in the painting, he can only be a pile of bones now, said Li Xian. Zhang Zipei shook his head. Brother, you're being too absolute. Dao Ancestor Wang is indeed terrifyingly powerful, but there are no less than tens of thousands of people locked up in the corpse painting, hundreds of millions of ancient experts. Can you guarantee that this old thief won't fail miserably in an easy task? It's like an idol star who recently debuted and whose parents are revealed to be old thugs. There are no absolutes in this world. He deceived Dao Ancestor Wang, he's a genius. Li Xian sighed. Zhang Zipei, there's one more thing that makes me certain that he was behind all this. Li Xian, what is it? Zhang Zipei, remember those ancient divine weapons that the Grave God summoned when Ling Jinren and the Grave God fought at the very beginning? Li Xian nodded. Of course I remember, that was the army that the Grave God created. In the end, Dao Ancestor's Dharma image creature chased them down, and only a few hundred of them are left from that army of 10 million. Zhang Zipei, when Ling Junren synchronized the battle in the inner world just now, I saw Lu Renfeng's Fire Phoenix mecha armor, and felt that it was similar to that ancient divine weapon. Hearing this, Li Xian was shocked. So Ancestor Wuxin was the one who built these ancient divine weapons? Zhang Zipei, he was a famous mechanic in ancient times. Because all the parts on his body could be replaced, and his heart was also a mechanical heart, he got the nickname Wuxin. Li Xian, but how do you know so much? Zhang Zipei, his wife told me. Li Xian, brother Zipei, don't tell me. Zhang Zipei, let bygones be bygones. This old man hasn't been Sea King for many years. Li Xian. Chapter 1640. The name Wuxin was also a well-known figure in ancient times. He was a well-known mechanic and had the nickname of half-divine soldier. In terms of popularity, he was not weaker than Zhang Zidan's reputation. If Wuxin had not been locked up by Dao ancestor Wang, he would have had black technology far beyond modern cultivation civilization in ancient times. However, the timeline had changed after all. In the corpse wrapping painting, the ancient powerhouses who were locked up by Dao ancestor Wang were now skeletons, and Wuxin's image was actually very obvious, because no one had gears in their bones. After Zhang Zidan was locked up in the corpse wrapping painting, he found that Wuxin's condition was not very good. As far as he was concerned, Wuxin had always been a relatively open and active person, but after being locked up in the painting, he seemed to be a little autistic. He did not expect Wuxin's ability to withstand pressure to be so poor, so Zhang Zidan did not care too much at that time. After all, not everyone was as shameless as him. But now, combined with many things in front of him, Zhang Zidan was more and more sure of his guess, that the Wuxin ancestor locked in the corpse wrapping painting, was definitely not himself. Because everyone knew that he was a half-divine soldier, who was imprisoned in the corpse wrapping painting and turned into a skeleton with all kinds of parts on his body, but unexpectedly, these parts in the corpse wrapping painting became the biggest camouflage. As the saying goes, a leaf can blind the eye. Zhang Zidan did not expect that he would be fooled by Wuxin. This half-divine soldier is interesting. Zhang Zidan snickered. But with Dao ancestor Wang's strength, even if he was deceived at the beginning, he should be able to see it later. Li Xian was puzzled. Dao ancestor Wang, this old thief, was angry in a moment. After he calmed down, he would not pursue it. Zhang Zidan said, of course, there is another possibility, that is, he left Wuxin outside for another purpose. All this time, Zhang Zizi still held a grudge against Dao ancestor Wang for sucking all the ancient experts into the corpse wrapping painting without a word. It was reasonable to say that with Dao ancestor Wang's realm, he wouldn't be so narrow-minded. Moreover, Zhang Zizi felt that the matter with Old God wasn't entirely his fault. He did like other people's wives, but he still respected the other party's wishes. Although he was a playboy, he didn't like to force others to have sex with him. If you can't get it, then use force. From Zhang Zipei's point of view, that was undoubtedly an action that would cause his butt to rot. It was true that he was dissatisfied with Dao ancestor Wang until now, but this string of actions of Dao ancestor Wang caused Zhang Ziqin to have no choice but to suspect that perhaps all of this was a trap. Moreover, only that man had the ability to set up a trap. Several minutes later, following the traces of the magic circle, Zhang Zidan and Li Xian approached the location of the North Pole. When they arrived at a certain coordinate, Li Xian suddenly stretched out his hand and pulled Zhang Zipei back. Brother Zipei, be careful. I know. There's a void Dharma realm here. Zhang Zipei stood with his hands clasped behind his back, floating in the void with Li Xian. This was another technique that had been passed down from the ancient times. The essence of the void Dharma realm was in fact a smokescreen, and people with low realms wouldn't be able to sense it so easily. That was to say, someone had set up this barrier in the North Pole and was trying to secretly do something inside. Thus, it was very likely that the entire North Pole had already been transformed, and the vast expanse of icebergs and snow had probably long since been reduced to nothingness. "Should we go take a look?" Li Xian said with a frown. The space inside the void Dharma realm was completely independent and isolated from the outside world. Once the two of them went in and fell into a trap, they might not be able to return. Li Xian was still hesitant. After all, he and Zhang Zidin were carrying out a mission together. If they failed because they were too rash, some of his points would be deducted, and the loss outweighed the gain. "I've already reported our location to Mr. Zhua. If we can't get out, he'll think of another way." To Li Xian's surprise, Zhang Zidin, who had always been very reckless, was exceptionally cautious at this moment. "Since Brother Zidin has said so, let's go in and take a look. Do you think the Heartless Patriarch is inside?" "Most likely," Zhang Zidin said. It had been a long time since they had arrived on Earth, and the ancient experts were relatively more reclusive. If the Heartless Patriarch had come to Earth from ancient times, he would have chosen this North Pole long ago and taken root here. But this was just Zhang Zidin's guess. Lu Renfeng's incident had been nothing more than a trivial matter to Zhang Zidin. He hadn't expected it to actually involve ancient times, which instantly piqued Zhang Zidin's interest. There were too many mysteries left, and he and Li Xian could only solve them one by one. Was the ancient brother who had set up the array the Heartless Patriarch, who was known as a half-step divine weapon? And what was the Heartless Patriarch's purpose in taking Lu Renfeng as his disciple? These things could only be found out after they stepped into the void Dharma realm. When Li Xian and Zhang Zizi both stretched out their hands and touched the boundary of the illusory world of nothingness, the two figures instantly disappeared along with a spurt of mist, submerging into it. Zhang Zidin and Li Xian were greatly shocked by the scene in front of them. Because what they saw in the void Dharma realm was a completely different scene. It was a city built of steel and concrete, shining with all kinds of neon lights, and countless mechanical flying objects hovering in the air in an orderly manner. It was actually another world inside the void Dharma realm. Li Xian and Zhang Zidin were stupefied and completely speechless. Because the scene in front of them was too cyberpunk, and very much like the online game they had seen Wei Ji play a few days ago. They had just arrived in modern cultivation society and had yet to fully adapt to it. This technology city in front of them, which looked like it had been built completely ahead of time, instantly left them dumbfounded once again. Meanwhile, on the other side, Audrey received a report from Zhang Zidin. The void Dharma realm. Although Zhang Zidin and Li Xian were already on the move, Audrey felt that this was a good opportunity to make a contribution. Of course, it wasn't because he wanted to make a contribution, but mainly because he wanted to help Zhou Zi. Given his current combat strength. Of course, it was mainly because he had the shared ability of the King's Eye. It wasn't a problem at all for him to do whatever he wanted. "How is it? Can your legs move well?" he asked as he looked at Zhou Zi. Zhou Zi's legs had grown very quickly because of the various nutritional supplements that Ryoko Kamiya and Lotus Sun had sent him. "I feel like I can still grow a little taller, but it's no problem for me to move normally." "Brother Zhua," Zhou Zi said. "So, do you want to go out and cultivate with me?" Zhua smiled. "Ah. But didn't we just resolve the matter with Lu Renfeng?" "It's not about Lu Renfeng. It's about something else," Zhua said. "And your performance on this mission may have something to do with whether or not you can become my disciple." Zhou Zi was instantly excited. "I'm willing to go." "Good. But you have to stay close to me during the operation," Zhua said. "Understood." Zhou Zi bared his teeth. At that moment, this naive youngster still didn't know what he was about to see. Zhua then quickly sent a text message to Lotus Sun to inform her of the matter. The general content was a copy and paste of what Zhang Zidin had said. That was, if he and Zhou Zi didn't come out of the world of nothingness, after a while, he would think of a way to rescue them. Done. After confirming that the message had been delivered, Audra breathed a slight sigh of relief. Then, he took out 5 sets of long johns from the wardrobe and gave them to Zhou. These were all long johns which Wang Ling had personally enchanted. Furthermore, they were the upgraded version 3.0, so there was no need to hide one's head and limbs in the long johns, and they could still protect the whole body. Wang Ling had given Audra a lot of them before, and today, he had taken out all his trump cards. Zhou was alarmed. Brother Zhua, these are, Audra, they're for you to save your life. After you put them on, even if we separate, no one can hurt you. Zhou was doubtful. These are just long johns, will they work? Audra laughed. When have I ever lied to you? Zhou, but will we be gone for long? Do we have to bring so many clothes? Audra, who told you to change? Put them all on. It's like a nesting doll, understand? Zhou, at that moment, this naive youngster still didn't know that after putting on 5 enchanted layers of long johns, his armor value had already been raised to the maximum. Chapter 1641. Audra wasn't stupid, and was well aware of how dangerous this illusion world of nothingness was. Zhang Zidi and Li Xinke were both ancient almighties, but even they weren't completely confident before entering, and had even left behind information in advance. It was obvious that this illusion world wasn't as simple as it seemed. There would definitely be danger. If he went by himself, he wouldn't have to worry about anything because of the shared power of the King's Eye. However, if he were to bring Zhou along, with Zhou's strength, it would be no different from sending him to his death. However, after putting on 5 layers of version 3.0 long johns, everything had changed, so sometimes, it wasn't because he was afraid of pain that he activated all his defenses. It was also possible that he was wearing too many long johns. Audra had already told Lotus-san before setting off with Zhou, but he hadn't revealed this to Kamiya Ryoko, because he didn't have any extra long johns in his inventory. The main thing was that it would be safer for one person to wear the 5 long johns, and it wouldn't be effective if they were worn separately. Most importantly, Kamiya Ryoko didn't like thick clothes, so he didn't tell her about bringing Zhou to cultivate. She only said that she was going out with Zhou and would be back soon. On the other side, Lotus-san received a text message from Audra. She actually had no intention of betraying Audra, but the current situation was a little awkward, because Kamiya Ryoko just so happened to be next to her. Today, she had come to the villa where Kamiya Ryoko lived mainly to discuss buying Wang Ling a birthday present. December 26th. In other words, tomorrow. It was Wang Ling's birthday. Lotus-san was struggling with what gift to give Wang Ling. In fact, it wasn't just Lotus-san, the entire battle sect was secretly preparing for a birthday present. If it was just simple crispy noodle snacks, it probably wouldn't be enough to satisfy this crispy noodle maniac's expanding needs. Perhaps other people's gifts weren't so exquisite. But she, apart from the gift, she also wanted to use it to convey her feelings to Wang Ling once again. However, she knew his personality. He would definitely not like a gift that was too flashy. So today, not long after Lu Renfeng's matter came to an end, she found Kwamiya Yoshiko to discuss the gift. They hadn't even officially discussed it yet. Just then, Audra happened to receive a text message. Him again. Why did he always bring him out? You didn't even bring me along. Ryoko Kwamiya crossed her arms and complained. Lotus-san hadn't expected Kamiya Ryoko's eyesight to be so good. She was clearly sitting across from her, and when she glanced at her screen, the text message was written backwards. How could she see it so clearly? Yoshiko, your eyesight is so good, humph. If your Wang Ling were to send me a text message at this time, you would also be able to see it clearly. said Kamiya Ryoko. Sometimes, girls were more sensitive. This was in fact thanks to the fact that she had sent so many messages to Audjua that whenever the word Audjua appeared anywhere, even if it was written backwards, Ryoko would still be able to recognize it in a second. Ryoko Kamiya's words made Lotus Sun blush to her ears. What do you mean by, my royal order? I just realized that you've become bad, Ryoko. Ryoko Kamiya, is that my royal order? Lotus Sun, absolutely not. Ryoko Kamiya laughed. I'm just kidding. Look at how nervous you are. I already have him. As she spoke, she stared at the phone screen. But I still don't understand. Why is he so concerned about Zhou Zi? Isn't it just taking him in as a disciple? If he wants to take him in, he can. Because Wang Ling was involved, it was actually quite complicated, and it wasn't convenient for Lotus Sun to talk about it for the time being. After all, as far as Ryoko knew, Wang Ling was still Audjua's disciple. But Lotus Sun felt that it wouldn't be too long before Ryoko learned the truth about Wang Ling's true strength. But in the end, Audjua would have to come forward and confess this matter to Ryoko. It actually wasn't appropriate for her to come forward herself. At that moment, Lotus Sun sighed silently in her heart. She had asked Ryoko Kamiya out just to discuss the birthday present, but in the end, something else had come up, and now it looked like it would be very troublesome. She could only comfort her. After all, you're going out to cultivate together, and that place might be more dangerous. That's why he didn't bring you along. The more Ryoko thought about it, the more she felt that something was wrong. But the problem is that this Zhou Zi's realm is about the same as mine. Why can he go? 2 men. Do you think it's possible that they went to some indecent place? No way, Senior Zhua isn't that kind of person. Said Lotus Sunday, but I just don't feel at ease. Ryoko had an anxious look on her face as she sighed. You haven't fallen in love yet, so you don't understand. Audjua and I are just at the beginning of our relationship, it's normal to feel this way. After saying this, Ryoko was slow to realize that her words seemed to stab Lotus Sun's heart, and she hurriedly apologized. Sorry, Rong, I didn't mean to, it's fine. Lotus Sun smiled awkwardly. She felt her mouth turn sour, as if she had eaten a lemon slice. Everyone was in love, but it seemed like she was the only one who hadn't found a partner yet. Who knew when that log of wood in the Wang family would blossom, Rong. While Lotus Sun's imagination was running wild, Ryoko suddenly called out to her. Lotus Sun, Ryoko, let's go together. Lotus Sun, but we'll be in danger. Actually, Lotus Sun wasn't that afraid, she was mainly worried about Ryoko. And if they went together, she was afraid that her current strength would be exposed to Ryoko. Ryoko smiled. It's fine, I have Ghost Talisman. I have 100,000 ghost soldiers at my disposal. Of course, just the 2 of us won't be enough. So we have to get help. Looking for help. Lotus Sun had a bad feeling about this. Then she saw Ryoko quickly compose a text message on her cell phone. Lotus Sun, who are you sending it to? Ryoko, Senior Golden Lamp, of course. Lotus Sun, after a few seconds, Kamiya Ryoko suddenly smiled and said, yes. Done. Lotus Sun was shocked. Senior Golden Lamp, agreed. Ryoko, of course, because I was talking to him about getting rid of demons. I didn't mention anything about the illusory realm of nothingness. Lotus Sun, Ryoko, but Senior Golden Lamp also said that he needed to report this matter to be on the safe side. Then he went to grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. She didn't know why. After hearing Ryoko say this, Lotus Sun suddenly had an ominous premonition. She felt that the illusory realm of nothingness, it seemed very lively. Chapter 1642. When he received Jamiya Ryoko's text message, Dang only needed to pinch his fingers to figure out what on earth had happened. If it had been before, he would definitely have declined if Jamiya Ryoko had come looking for him. But the situation was different now. The monk admired Wang Ling very much, and had become the vice headmaster of No. 60 High School in order to be closer to him. In order to better understand Wang Ling, he had a very good relationship with Aujua, and now that Jamiya Ryoko was Aujua's person, he naturally had to agree to this request. In fact, Dang had already noticed the illusory world a long time ago. He could more or less guess who the owner of the illusory world was. So far, the illusory world had been relatively peaceful, and nothing major had happened, so the monk naturally couldn't be bothered to pay attention to it. He had lived in seclusion on Earth for a long time. If it wasn't for his friendship with Wang Ling and the fact that he knew he still had a long way to go to cultivate, he would probably still be in seclusion and living a quiet life as a Zen cultivator. Long periods of immersive seclusion naturally brought with it boundless loneliness. Not everyone could be like the monk, who could repeatedly knock on the wooden fish in one place for thousands of years. For example, in this illusory world, old guy, you finally can't take it anymore. Dang's face was dark and unruffled. It had already been hundreds of years since he had last quietly entered the illusory world. Now, the technology city built from gear, lights and advanced cosmic alloy had probably already reached a certain scale. It was just that he didn't know how long the city in the illusory world could last after they all went inside. Elsewhere, when Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal received the monk's message, he and Loopy Toad were inspecting Shou Chang's destroyed private laboratory. They had obtained information from Lu Renfeng's laboratory. They had received news that Shou Chang was junior brother Lu Renfeng, so they had rushed here without stopping. In the end, they hadn't expected this online celebrity scientist to have already run away. The entire underground laboratory had been cleaned out. He hadn't taken any of the mechanical equipment with him, but had directly blown them up into flying ash. When the battle sect disciples responsible for the arrest arrived, the scene was already a mess. Everyone, do your best to search. Don't miss a single corner. Carefully sift through the ashes left in every place, said an outer sect disciple of battle sect wearing a white Daoist robe and carrying a large sword on his back. Yes. The rest of the people replied. The emotions of this group of war sect disciples were abnormally high, although they were still outer sect disciples of the war sect. However, there was also a monthly assessment for the outer sect disciples, which was also divided into grades. The disciple with the huge sword on his back was called Claudius. There were 9 copper coins embroidered on his Daoist robe, which proved that he was a level 9 outer sect disciple of the combat faction. According to the sect's reliable rules, as long as an outer sect disciple had 10 copper coins embroidered on them, they would be qualified to participate in the inner sect assessment. He didn't know if it was because Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was there in person. This great sword disciple also wanted to show the spirit of an outer sect disciple, so he repeated, "I can't hear you." Louder. Yes. The rest of the outer court disciples answered one after another. No. He has no energy at all. But I was already very loud. A disciple retorted in a low voice. In our battle sect, if a 9th-ranked disciple says he can't hear, then he can't hear. The great sword disciple said, "I'll say it again. Search every nook and cranny. Do you understand? Ming. Bye. Very good. Very spirited. Sect leader, the equipment in the lab has already been blown up, and we can't find any relevant data. The only clue we have so far is that the composition of the ash on the wall is very similar to that of the androids. In addition, we haven't found any genetic evidence related to Shouchong," a sect disciple reported. The composition of the androids. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal thought for a bit, then snapped his fingers. If he was right, Lu Renfeng had probably sent a team of androids to look for Shoucheng earlier, and it was very likely that they had threatened him. Inferring from the timing, the explosion in the lab had happened after Lu Renfeng had been arrested. This was in fact an excellent opportunity for Shoucheng to escape. But there was one thing that grenade-throwing senior immortal didn't understand. Since Shoucheng and Lu Renfeng, this pair of fellow apprentice brother and sister, couldn't get along, it was impossible for them to work together. For Shoucheng, Lu Renfeng's arrest was probably something to be happy about. He had no reason to run away. But it wasn't impossible to catch Shoucheng now, which was why he had asked Loopy Toad for help. Although this king is good at tracking, you should be able to do it too, right? Loopy Toad said. It's just that I haven't been on a mission with Brother Dog for a long time, and I kind of miss it. Grenade-throwing senior immortal smiled. This place was blown up very cleanly and has been specially treated. If it was a few months ago, given this king's strength, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to track him to this extent. But now, I can, Loopy Toad said. Tracking sense was a dog's instinct to begin with. Although it had turned from a toad into a dog, it was now getting more and more used to its body. It looked at grenade-throwing senior immortal. Did you take Shoucheng's personal belongings? A battle sect disciple approached it of his own accord. Elder Dog, we've already prepared everything according to sect leader's instructions. We found these things in the apartment under Shoucheng's name. I don't know if they'll be of any use. These are enough, Loopy Toad said. Also, don't call me Elder Dog, call me Mr. Second. It somehow felt that Elder Dog sounded like he was cursing. All right, Elder Dog. Then what do you want, Mr. Second? We've collected tissues that have been stained with an unknown liquid, underwear that has been left in the washing machine but hasn't been washed yet and has an unknown yellow stain, a pair of socks that are no longer white and emit the smell of rotten salted fish, and... The disciple answered warmly. Forget it, just bring this bag of things to me, no need to describe them, all right, Mr. Second. Although Loopy Toad could already imagine how disgusting the things in the bag would be just by listening to the description, when it brought its nose closer, it actually felt like it had almost died from the poison. Are all older, single, straight men so sloppy? Loopy Toad was full of disdain. It depends. This reminds me of Brother Little Silver, said grenade-throwing senior immortal. Little Silver. What did he do this time? It's like this, hasn't Brother Silver been obsessed with writing recently? Recently, he wrote a scene where the male and female leads kiss, and was shocked to realize that their first kiss was gone, while his was still there. Loopy Toad, this was indeed a sad story. After memorizing the indescribable smell in the bag, Loopy Toad's fur stood on end. It's done. Now, we just need to set out and find him. Yes, thank you, Brother Dog, said grenade-throwing senior immortal. Even if he hides at the ends of the earth, this king will definitely find him. And so, about 10 minutes later, grenade-throwing senior immortal and Loopy Toad appeared at the edge of the illusory world's barrier. Chapter 1643. In the illusory world of nothingness, the huge technology city was clearly divided into two major areas. The core area of the city was the most splendid and brilliant place. Just by looking at the shining golden lights there, one could tell that it was the gathering place of the rich gentry. As long as they had enough money, they could do whatever they wanted inside. When Li Xian and Zhang Zizi entered here, they were in the outermost block. The air of this block was filled with a faint smell of engine oil and flashing neon lights of various colors, which made people feel very unreal. The two used invisibility spells and secretly observed the people living in the illusory world of nothingness. Although they had not fully touched the core area, from the feeling of the outer layer, this illusory world of nothingness did indeed have its own independent civilization. At first glance, they knew that it was the work of the heartless ancestor. Because as far as the two of them could see, the people living here were all half-mechanized human cultivators. Even many shops that sold spiritual tools had all kinds of mechanical limbs and mechanical organ parts hanging in the shops. The only overlap with the real world was that the language was still universal. You've created another world and declared yourself a king. This old guy thinks he's playing in Minecraft. Zhang Zizi snickered. Then, in front of Li Xian, he removed one of his right legs and replaced it with a mechanical limb. Li Xian. Zhang Zizi said, "Don't just stand there, hurry up and remove it." Li Xian, "How do I remove it?" Zhang Zizi, "Don't tell me you haven't learned the disintegration technique. Do you want me to teach you? At our level, don't we just casually remove and replace our eyeballs? Isn't it easy to remove a leg? There are only cyborgs here. If we move in public, we will definitely be suspected." Li Xian, although Zhang Zizi's words sounded very reasonable, Li Xian really hadn't learned the disintegration technique. However, both of them were big shots at the immemorial level, and their strength was almost the same, so it was not difficult for them to learn a new spell. Zhang Zian secretly sighed, and had to pass the incantation of the body dissolution technique to Li Xian's mind step by step. Li Xian studied on the spot for more than 10 minutes before he roughly understood it. Then, he removed one of his legs. He didn't expect that there was such a magical spell that could remove his limbs or organs. "How did you learn the disintegration technique?" Li Xian asked curiously. "Speaking of which, it was old God who taught me." Zhang Zizi snickered. "You know, my ability is very strong. As a result, the old goddess couldn't stop thinking about me. So I took off an arm for her and let her use it herself." Li Xian, Zhang Zizi sighed and said, "Fortunately, this arm was taken back before I was locked in the painting by Dao ancestor Wang. Otherwise, this right arm that has been with me for countless years might have turned into a fossil outside." Li Xian, after putting on the mechanical legs, Li Xian suddenly realized a very serious problem. He looked at Zhang Zipi. "Brother Zipi, where did you get this mechanical leg?" Zhang Zi secretly pointed to a shop selling mechanical limbs in front of them. "I just went to the front for an inspection, so I came here. As soon as I realized that the currency here is different from the currency outside." "That doesn't seem very good, Brother Zipi. You're now the anti-theft squad's consultant, but this is the illusory land of nothingness, so what?" "I don't care, I have to severely reprimand you for this. Ling Zhenren has repeatedly warned me," Li Xian said seriously and exaggeratedly. After all, he and Zhang Zipi had been the first to be released from the corpse picture by Wang Ling, and he had been promoted to captain, so it was his duty to supervise Zhang Zipi's activities in the modern world. It would be an exaggeration to say that Wang Ling had repeatedly warned him, because those who were familiar with him knew that he usually spoke no more than 15 words, but putting that aside, the act of stealing was definitely not right. This was a problem that had to be corrected. It was the same even in the illusory land of nothingness. "Fine, can't I think of a way to buy it?" Zhang Zipi was helpless, but he could only comply with Li Xian's stubbornness. There was nothing he could do, because he was also afraid of Wang Ling. "That's fine, but you're not allowed to steal money," said Li Xian. Then, at the speed of lightning, Zhang Zipi returned the mechanical legs that had been thrown over to the shop owner. He then directly led Li Xian over and chose to buy the 2 mechanical legs that he had just put back. "How much for these 2? The shop owner, who looked like he weighed more than 100 jin, was wild with joy at the sudden big business. He rubbed his iron hands together and beamed. "You two sound like foreigners." "What, xenophobic?" Zhang Zipi raised his eyebrows. "Not at all. This shop has always been about the customer first." The shop owner smiled. "The 2 mechanical legs that this gentleman has taken a fancy to are new arrivals, model Beppel 12 Pro, Taigui. Is it the latest model from the core area?" Zhang Zipi asked. Sir, you must be joking. You know, the 10 floors outside the core area are all outer rings, and are actually where the poor live. There's no essential difference. The shop owner said, to tell you the truth, these 2 mechanical legs are indeed obsolete products in the core area for the rich. But here in our outer ring, they're new. So the price. I know. Just name your price. Zhang Zipi glanced at the shop owner and said. These are the last 2 mechanical legs of this model in our shop. The current original market price is 1,098 yuan. For both legs, sir, you only need to pay me 2,000 silver cogs. I'll give you a discount. The shop owner grinned. You can use electronic transactions or gear coins. After the shop owner finished speaking, Li Xian stared at Zhang Zipi's movements. He saw Zhang Zipi touch his left pocket, then the other pockets, and finally, he took out a stack of money that he had never seen before. The shop owner was overjoyed. When he saw Zhang Zipi take out the money without bargaining, he felt like he had killed a big fat sheep today. Thank you for your patronage. Thank you for your patronage. I look forward to your next visit. Then, the 2 left the shop. They found a dark corner and replaced the mechanical legs. Li Xian frowned deeply, still confused. Brother Zipi, where did you get the money from? Zhang Zipi snickered. I don't have money. Of course, it's from the shop owner. Li Xian said, You. Why did you steal his money again? Give it back. Zhang Zipi snickered. Didn't I already give it back? Li Xian said, but our mechanical legs. Zhang Zipi said, what's wrong with the mechanical legs? Aren't these mechanical legs bought with money? I didn't steal them. Look at the shop owner's happy face. He's looking forward to our next visit. Hearing this, Li Xian opened his mouth wide. This genius logic made him speechless for a while. Chapter 1644. In the illusory void, outside the technology city's core area of the 10th ring, mechanical parts were piled up like a mountain. Since they entered the illusory void through different coordinates, the illusory void did not have the same effect. When Audua and Zhou passed through the outer barrier, they directly appeared in their current position. There were all kinds of mechanical parts piled up here, and the air was filled with the unpleasant smell of gasoline from broken limbs. As soon as they entered, Audua immediately sealed his and Zhou nose orifices and used the turtle breathing spell to breathe. Zhou was stunned by the scene in front of him. This kind of apocalyptic sci-fi scene would only appear in a sci-fi blockbuster, giving people a surreal feeling. He followed Audua past several mechanical hills. Suddenly, a mechanical hand reached out from the gap and grabbed Zhou's trousers. The strength of the stump was not great, but it happened so suddenly that Zhou staggered. In comparison, Audua was indeed unperturbed, because he knew very well that nothing here could hurt him. Zhou blushed. Brother Zhua. I'm sorry, you probably haven't gone out to cultivate since you lost your legs, so it's inevitable that you lack some experience. A long time ago, when I went to the secret land with the seniors to cultivate, I was just as frightened. Audua smiled. These words were his encouragement to Zhou. At the same time, it also made him feel like a master for the first time. He had taken a fancy to Zhou and decided to take him in not only because of Zhou's character, but also because he wanted to find a strong successor for himself. On the other hand, he also wanted to properly experience what it was like to be a Shifu. If he could figure it out, he might be able to understand Wang Ling better. Using the power of the King's Eye, Audua conducted a carpet search from a god's perspective, and a hologram of the entire illusory world appeared in his mind. It turned out that this was a technological city, a cultivation city built on a mechanized foundation. Brother Zhua? What do we do next? Zhou asked. Before coming to the secret realm, he was full of confidence. However, when he really came to a strange new environment, the fear and mystery that stemmed from the unknown made Zhou Zi's mind go blank. He had no idea what he should do. In fact, this problem wasn't limited to Zhou Zi. Most of the newbies in the cultivation world were like this. Under the current systematic model of compulsory cultivation education, unless there was a very special opportunity, no one would be able to attend college. Otherwise, under normal circumstances, the cultivators who had graduated from university would almost never have the experience of exploring a pocket dimension on their own. Most of them would follow the main group and move together under the protection and organization of the instructors of the university. With the advantage in numbers, they naturally wouldn't feel afraid in a different place. Audua had always thought that, strictly speaking, it wasn't called exploring a secret land. Instead, it was called a spring outing or an autumn outing. On the contrary, the fewer people there were, the more uneasy they would feel. Z, you don't have to be afraid. What you're wearing right now is a very strong defensive equipment. What, you still don't believe me? Audua laughed. I believe you, as if. Long johns. How could they be so strong? Zhou Zi scratched his head. Although Audua had already told him before coming here about the power of long johns, Audua didn't know what to make of them. However, he did not completely believe it. Because it was just too ridiculous. Although he was now wearing 5 layers of long johns and looked fatter, Zhou Zi found it miraculous that he didn't feel uncomfortable at all. These long johns seemed to be able to fit the human body, and also had a temperature control system that could adjust the human body's temperature to the most appropriate state. Such comfortable long johns were soft and intimate, and didn't look hard at all. How could they withstand a fierce attack? This didn't make any sense at all. When it comes in handy later, you'll know how strong these things are, Audua said. After all, this enchanted long johns version 3.0 was Wang Ling's handiwork. Who would have thought that enchanted long johns would be more than 10 times more powerful than the chaos armor worn by Dao ancestor Wang's Dharma characteristic creature, Du? But now, these 5 long johns were stacked together like a doll. Although they made Zhou Zi look like a slightly bloated Michelin tire, Zhou Zi's armor was now fully stacked. No one could hurt him. He wasn't in a hurry. In fact, he had brought Zhou Zi here this time to find an opportunity to help him soar. It was true that this heartless patriarch was an ancient expert. But if Zhou Zi could get rid of this 10,000 ancient rank powerhouse, he felt that he was more than qualified to join his sect. He had won without doing anything for so long, and was well versed in the art of winning without doing anything. It was just that he never thought that there would actually be a day when he would bring along the disciple he wanted to take in and set up a winning scheme for his future disciple. He casually picked up 2 mechanical limbs from the mountain of garbage and used the King's Eye's recovery ability to scan them. Then, Zhou Zi saw the 2 mechanical limbs actually turn into golden particles of light in his hands, which formed a holographic image in the air and then swiftly materialized. This was the King's Eye's Light of Repair, Home Appliance Edition, which was specially used to repair mechanical products. He had just wanted to give it a try, and never thought that it would actually come in handy. In less than 2 seconds, 2 brand new mechanical limbs appeared in Audua's hands. At that moment, both of them exclaimed in their hearts. Audua exclaimed in his heart, "So this is what a complete mechanical arm looks like." Zhou Zi exclaimed in his heart, "There's actually this kind of operation." Sensing Zhou Zi's astonished gaze, Audua couldn't help laughing. "Don't be too surprised, it's just an ordinary technique." After sorting out his thoughts, Zhou Zi said, "Brother Zhua, since these are all semi-mechanical cultivators, shouldn't we also switch to mechanical limbs?" Audua nodded. "Smart. But given your current realm, you don't have enough spirit energy to use the disintegration spell to replace your limbs. Even if you learn this spell, I'm afraid it won't last more than 10 seconds. Then, what should we do?" It's very simple. Just use an illusion spell. The next second, Audrey used the shared king's eye ability to project the two mechanical arms that he had just restored onto himself and Josie in the form of an illusion spell. When Josie saw that his right hand had suddenly turned into a metal mechanical arm, he was completely taken aback. Amazing. It's like I've changed into a new layer of skin. That's foolproof. Audrey cupped his chin and said, but this illusory realm is already another country. I'm guessing that the currency used here is different from what we usually use. Unlike other secret realms, this secret realm had these mechanical native cultivators and its own civilization. Wherever there were people, there would definitely be all kinds of sales and transactions. Furthermore, through the holographic image sent back by the king's eye, Audrey could also see the dazzling, central core area. So the crux of the problem was how to enter this place as legal natives without alerting the enemy. Audrey judged that if they wanted to move around here unimpeded, they would need to have enough money. Thus, at that very moment, facing this huge and sparsely populated parts junkyard in front of him, Audrey discovered an opportunity to strike it rich. Go pick up some parts that look like they can still be used, Audrey said. He had the ocular technique of repairing light, home appliance edition, so he could turn waste into treasure and sell it for a profit. Okay. Josie understood tacitly and could almost immediately guess what Audrey wanted to do. But just as Josie was about to act, a tall, fair-skinned young man suddenly appeared in front of them. He was dressed in casual clothes and had neat bangs. As he approached them, it was as if they could feel the sunlight radiating from him. Brother, you don't seem to be from here. Audrey frowned. Me? Indeed not, but neither are you. The young man smiled. Who are you? Audrey's eyes darkened. This unknown young man could actually see through the king's eye's illusion spell. This was inconceivable to him. Sorry, I didn't mean to eavesdrop on you. I also accidentally fell into this secret realm. At that moment, the young man raised his hands lazily in a gesture of surrender. So he had eavesdropped. Audrey breathed a sigh of relief. So I just want to ask, where on earth is this place? I heard you say that it's a secret realm. Have you heard of Bayen City? I'm from there, the young man said. Bayen. Audrey was blank. Then, he looked up at the person in front of him. As far as I know, our Huasho nation doesn't have a city called Bayen. Huasho nation. Hearing this, the young man was blank. He rubbed his chin with a thoughtful expression and couldn't help muttering, oh no, did I fall into another space? Brother, aren't you going to tell me who you are? It feels very rude, Audrey said warily. He felt that there was something indescribably strange about the young man in front of him. And most importantly, the other party's battle strength wasn't ordinary. The young man hadn't deliberately released his spirit power. But through the king's eye, Audrey could clearly see that the spirit power in this young man's body was as boundless as the sea. It was almost on par with a Tao god. Then in exchange, after I'm done, I hope you can tell me who you are. The young man smiled warmly and then held out his hand to Audrey. Hearing Josie call Audrey Brother Joie earlier, he also said, hello, Brother Joie, my name is Qin Zong. Qin as in Chu Tian, Zong as in vertical and horizontal. Qin. Zong. Audrey was stunned by the name. Somehow, he felt that he had heard it somewhere before. At that moment, Audrey still hadn't realized it. This handshake was a historic meeting. Chapter 1645. The shared version of the King's Eye had a lot of abilities, but at the same time, it also had limited permissions. Audrey actually didn't have access to quite a few of the heaven-defying abilities. It wasn't that he was stingy, but that once these abilities were abused or used improperly, they could have a very serious butterfly effect. On the other hand, Audjua actually hadn't reached the level of spirit power required to activate these heaven-defying abilities. He looked at the young man in front of him and felt like he had heard this name before, but he could not quite put his finger on it. Zhou Zi stared at Qin Zong. Although he felt that Qin Zong's sudden appearance was suspicious, he didn't know why he felt that Qin Zong looked especially familiar. What do you think? Do you want to cooperate? From the looks of it, you're planning to sell these wastes, right? Actually, Qin Zong had seen pretty much everything that had happened just now. He knew that Audjua had the ability to turn trash into treasure, so he immediately offered to cooperate. That depends on how you can help, said Audjua. TCH, I'm just here to join in the fun. If I can help you, I hope you can help me think of a way to let me go home, Qin Zong replied. It was Qin Zong's first time encountering a space-time disorder after falling into a space-time turbulence. He could basically determine that he had fallen into another space. This was a big problem. With his current realm and strength, he was still unable to correct space-time. Of course, he didn't know whether Audjua could help him. However, based on past experience, Lin Feng was not a match for Lin Feng. He felt that following Audjua was definitely the right choice, because he was lucky enough. Otherwise, he wouldn't have heard Audjua and Zhou Zi discussing a plan in this deserted waste yard as soon as he had fallen out of the space, and he found that he could be of use. Cooperation. After all, we don't know you. I think we should consider it. Audjua said. He did not reject Qin Zong too much. It was just that he was too unfamiliar with Qin Zong. He did not know what Qin Zong's purpose for appearing here was. Also, if Qin Zong were to join, it might affect Zhou Zi's contribution. While he was thinking, Qin Zong crossed his arms and burst out laughing. I'm not a bad guy. If you're worried that I'll steal the credit, you don't have to worry. I'm the best at providing support. It wasn't that Qin Zong had used some mind-reading ability, but that he had made a mental guess purely by analyzing the micro-expressions on Audjua's face, and then hit the nail on the head by a fluke. Audjua pursed his lips. It's not impossible for you to cooperate, but you have to follow my plan. Of course, I'll listen to you. Qin Zong nodded. Then you and Z can go pick up scrap, Audjua ordered. Audjua hadn't expected a Dao God cultivator to go pick up trash. He thought Qin Zong would be angry, but in the end, Qin Zong seemed to be in an unusually good mood. He did not look like he was picking up trash at all. Instead, he looked like he was looking for treasure. Audjua was shocked again. He suddenly regretted agreeing to join Qin Zong. Why did he feel like he had dragged a lunatic onto the boat? About a quarter of an hour later, Zhou Zi and Qin Zong returned at the same time. Master, the storage bag is basically full. It looks like it can be used. Zhou Zi said. Basically, he picked up the severed limbs that looked new and didn't have much dust on them. In total, he picked up 100 storage bags, and they were full. After that, he looked at Qin Zong. Then, Brother Qin Zong, how much did you pick up? With a smile on his face, Qin Zong fished out a gray item from his storage pouch. It was giving off a foul smell of engine oil. It looked like a lotus root that had just been unearthed from the mud. Ah, can this be sold for money? Zhou Zi said doubtfully. Qin Zong was very confident in himself, and the smile on his face didn't fade. You'll know when it's repaired. After a while, the three of them took the mechanical arm that Audjua had repaired with Repair Light, Home Appliances Edition, to a shop that sold and recycled mechanical limbs. Qin Zong glanced at the name of the shop, Boss Pigeon Mechanical Limb Shop, and suddenly felt all sorts of emotions welling up in his heart. As soon as they entered the shop, the chubby shop owner was counting the money in the cabinets and seemed to be muttering something incessantly. He stared at the account book, puzzled no matter how hard he thought about it, and looked distressed. I clearly sold 2,000 yuan worth of goods just now. Why hasn't the cash in this cabinet changed? Did I not learn functions well enough? My maths teacher is clearly still in good health. Boss, do you want to recycle the mechanical arms? Audra asked at that moment. The chubby shop owner immediately put down what he was doing, and a smile reappeared on his fierce-looking face. What do the three of you want to sell? Audra handed over Josie's storage bag first. These are 100 mechanical arms of different models. Boss, please appraise them. I hope you can give me a suitable price. If you want to sell them as a package, there's no harm in selling them at a lower price. He had the air of an old man, and didn't have the slightest bit of the guilty conscience of an outsider. The chubby shop owner was blank for a moment, then turned around and poured the mechanical arms in the storage bag into the huge cylindrical machine behind him. BZZT. After the red beam of light scanned for more than 10 seconds, the 100 mechanical arms formed a long list, which was pulled out from the spit at the bottom. As I expected, they're all old models. The chubby shop owner sighed and showed the list to Audra. Sir, look, my machine is connected to the internet. Almost 99% of all models of mechanical arms have them, and you'll see them after a scan. He went on and on. The specific model, the year of production, the manufacturer, the price at the time of production, and the current market price. Although this batch of mechanical arms looks especially new, as if they've never been used before, they're only slightly higher than the normal recycling price. For 100 of them, I'll give you 5,000 silver gear coins at most. Only 5,000. Audra frowned. It looked like his plan to make a fortune by repairing broken mechanical arms was going to be a little fruitless. He roughly knew that the boss was exaggerating a little, but from a business point of view, there was nothing wrong with him being meticulous with his calculations. Normally, it would definitely be more than 5,000. Perhaps the boss had quoted a little lower, but Audra guessed that the difference was only a few thousand yuan. Was he short of a few thousand yuan? He was thinking of directly becoming a nouveau riche by selling mechanical arms here. No matter what, he had to earn 100 million first. So Audra couldn't be bothered to haggle, and directly agreed to sell the bag of mechanical arms. The boss straightaway took out 5 1,000 yuan banknotes from the cabinet and handed them to Audra. Silver gears were drawn on them, as well as a special anti-counterfeiting seal. The spirit power fluctuations told Audra that they weren't fake. Because the workmanship of a fake banknote couldn't be so complicated, and there was even a deliberate anti-counterfeiting seal. Thank you for your patronage. After accepting the sack of mechanical arms, the boss grinned from ear to ear. After selling the difference in price, he had a net profit of around 3,000 silver gear coins. Just then, Audra said, "Wait, I have more mechanical arms here." "Boss, can you see how much they're worth?" "There's more." The boss's eyes lit up. "How many?" Audra stuck out one finger and said with a smile, "1." This was the one that Qin Zong had found, and he had just finished repairing it. Audra was a little surprised when he restored the mechanical arm that Qin Zong had dug out, because it was a mechanical arm made of bronze and looked very cumbersome. He didn't understand the value of mechanical arms, and as a pure layman, he also didn't believe that Qin Zong would. This bronze arm clearly didn't look very valuable, but Qin Zong had been brimming with confidence from the very beginning. "Boss, how much is it?" Qin Zong's smile was still as bright as ever. In fact, when Audra flashed the bronze arm, the look in the fat boss's eyes instantly changed. Unlike when he had poured the storage bag's worth of mechanical arms into the cylindrical scanner earlier, he took out a single-sided magnifying glass and a strong flashlight from his small drawer, and carefully examined the entire bronze arm. The whole shop was silent for several minutes. The fat boss suddenly cried out in surprise, "That's great. Sparassi. How could this thing be here? Audra and Josie. Audra, boss, why didn't you put it in the machine to be identified? The fat boss, bronze arms are very rare to begin with. Just like I said before, the backend library can't scan 1% of the model number. Josie, is it because the workmanship is very exquisite? The fat boss shook his head and exclaimed, no, rather than the workmanship, it's better to talk about its collectible value. After saying that, the fat boss instantly realized that things weren't looking good. He had wanted to pretend to be calm and trick this bronze arm out of Audra's hands. But after seeing this mechanical arm, he really couldn't restrain his excitement. If my eyes aren't wrong, this should be the Bdwin 46 Royal Deluxe Limited Edition mechanical arm produced by CJG's Mechanical Arm Factory 1,000 years ago. He said excitedly, look. This mechanical arm. It's also engraved with the signatures and seals of over 100 clan heads in the core area. It's carved in small letters. You can only see it clearly with a magnifying glass. After 1,000 years, I'm afraid it's hard to estimate the value of this bronze arm. Brother Qin Zong is so strong, Audra and Josie were completely dumbfounded. What the F***K, they had dug up a limited edition. So, boss, you can't make a deal? Qin Zong asked at that moment. To be honest, it's not that I don't want to buy it. It's that apart from the nouveau riche families in the core area, I'm afraid no shop in the outer ring can buy this bronze arm. The fat boss smiled helplessly and spread his hands. We're just poor people. If it doesn't work, the three of you can give it a try. Qin Zong cupped his chin and pondered for a moment. If it was really as the boss said, that this bronze arm could only be recycled in the core area, then it was the same as falling into an endless loop. The purpose of the three of them making money was to use the power of money to buy legal identities from the outer slums and sneak into the depths. Audra and Josie were silent. They both had a tacit understanding to see what Qin Zong would choose. At that moment, after thinking for a while, Qin Zong raised his head again. He had a disappointed look on his face, and there was no trace of it being an act at all. So this treasure is going to fall into my hands. The fat boss smiled inwardly. He knew that his chance had come. Actually, if you're willing to sell it, it's not that I can't buy it, but I've already reminded you in advance that given the value of this treasure, it's not worth it to sell it here. Our recycling price is definitely far lower than in the core area. Then how much can the core area open? For them, I think they'll have to give at least 1 million. 1 million silver gear coins? Asked Josie. No, 1 million gold gear coins. Based on a 100 conversion, it's equivalent to 100 million silver gear coins. Said the fat boss. Then how much can you give? Asked Qin Zong. Me. I can probably give at most 100,000. And it's silver gear coins, said the fat boss as he scratched his head. That's a little big indeed. Qin Zong laughed. How about this, boss? If you're willing to accept it, I can sell it to you. We've been short on money recently. The fat boss was immediately stupefied, and simply couldn't believe his ears. What? You're willing to sell it to me? But you also know that 100,000 silver gear coins is definitely a small amount. Apart from money, I think you should also give us some subsidies. What do you say? Qin Zong narrowed his eyes and smiled. The fat boss thought for a bit, then said, how about this? If you're willing to sell it to me, I'll give you the tickets to tonight's underground boxing competition. I've received reliable information tonight that the favorite to win the championship, Jian Shaochang, is up against that Master Niu Baogua. Tonight, I've received reliable news that one of the favorites for the championship, Jian Shaochang, is going up against Master Niu Baogua. Grandmaster Niu Baogua will win. If you win, according to the odds, you can get 1,000,000 silver gear coins in one go. Absolute victory. Qin Zong smiled. The match hasn't started yet. I don't believe in rumors. At this time, the fat boss gritted his teeth and decided to use a method that looked like a gamble, but was actually the most profitable for him. How about this? I'll give you 50 lottery chances for free. As you can see, although my shop isn't big, I do have top-notch goods. Whether or not you can get it depends on your luck. As he spoke, he pressed the button on the counter and sealed the door of the shop on the spot. Accompanied by the sound of gears turning, the hidden mechanism display cabinet inside the shop was revealed in front of everyone. This was his collection of mechanical arms, and there were more than 100 of them. These are my trump cards. I don't usually show them to the public. He pointed at his hidden display case and said, the second to last floor above us is Section SS. Most of them were just recently eliminated from the core zone, but they sell for an average of 100,000 silver gear coins here. The next box is Section S, which sells for an average of 50,000 silver gear coins. Section A sells for an average of 10,000 silver gear coins. The rest are B goods worth a few thousand silver coins and C goods worth only a few hundred silver coins. After saying that, the fat boss turned around and carefully picked up the bronze arm from the cabinet and put it on top of the display cabinet. All these years, I've always wondered if there were any SSR-grade goods, Zhou Z and Zhou Z. So, boss, what do you mean? A lottery. As long as you're willing to sell me this bronze arm, I'll let you draw all the mechanical arms in my shop. Including the one you sold me. The fat boss said excitedly, there are a lot of small iron balls in that cradle over there. Black is C, gray is B, silver is A, gold is S, purple and gold is SS, and the ones that represent SSR are jade balls. I see. Qin Zong nodded thoughtfully. How about it? Do you dare make a bet with me? If you're fated with this bronze arm, you might be able to draw it back. The fat boss continued to tease Qin Zong into participating in this bet. He looked full of confidence, almost certain that Qin Zong wouldn't be able to draw it if he got carried away. The shop's lottery routine had always been the same, the prizes were very tempting, but the chances were minuscule. There were 100,000 small balls in his cradle. According to the ratio, most of the balls were gray and black, while there were only 100 silver balls representing A and gold balls representing S, and 10 purple and gold balls representing SS. Of course, the most outrageous was the SSR jade ball that the boss had just decided on a whim. There was only 1 in 100,000 balls. As he spoke, he deliberately opened the cradle and showed the key jade ball to Qin Zong, Zhou Z, and Qin Zong, then added 2 more into the cradle. I'll add 2 more for you. Good enough, right? Excuse me, boss, is there no other alternative? Do I really want to draw a lottery? Qin Zong asked repeatedly to confirm. No. I'm poor, so I can only bet on luck. The fat boss laughed. If you don't sell it, I'll go to another shop and they'll probably let you draw a lottery. Oh, okay. I'll draw. Qin Zong laughed. The fat boss was delighted. You mean? Qin Zong nodded. Yes, I'll sell this bronze arm to you. But if I draw something good, don't go back on your word, boss. The fat boss smiled slyly. Don't worry, we're all serious businessmen. As soon as he said that, the two of them sneered in their hearts at the same time. Qin Zong, heh, this fool. The fat boss, heh, this fool. With a probability of 3 in 100,000, I'll let you draw 50 times. Can you kill me instantly? Chapter 1646. In less than 10 minutes, the 3 of them had already left Boss Pigeon's shop, fully loaded. The fat boss stood at the door and stared with a dumbfounded expression, feeling like a soulless walking corpse. His shop was completely empty. Qin Zong had taken away everything of value, including the bronze arm which Qin Zong had just sold to Boss Pigeon. The estimated value of this loss had already exceeded 1,000,000 silver gear coins. He had lost so much that he had to go back to his grandmother's house. Zhou Zi, brother Qin Zong, you're amazing, you're actually the first to get a jade ball. Aren't you a little too lucky? Maybe it's not that I'm lucky, but maybe you're the luckier one, Zi. I picked up the bronze arm with you just now after picking up the trash, Qin Zong said very modestly. Actually, he didn't want to go overboard. But who told this boss to compete in the lottery with him in order to scam him out of the bronze arm? When he had drawn the lottery, he had watched the boss's face turn livid little by little. Out of concern for the boss's health, he had straightaway let go and let Zhou Zi and Audiobook help him draw a few more rounds. But unfortunately, his Providence radiation was too strong, and it directly caused Zhou Zi and Audiobook's luck to be extremely good. The three of them took turns and won one item after another. Nearly 99% of the gray and black balls were drawn, but they didn't win a single one out of 50 times. The mechanism of Providence radiation had started a long time ago. As the one and only koi in the cultivation world, Qin Zong's passive ability had already reached the level of precise radiation after constant cultivation. That was to say, as long as Qin Zong subconsciously listed someone as an enemy, even if he was present, the Providence radiation wouldn't reach that person. Hence, Boss Pigeon was out of luck. But this also reminded Qin Zong of something else. That was, he now indeed regarded Audiobook and Zhou Zi as his teammates. Strange, it's clearly the first time we've met, but why does it feel so familiar? Qin Zong murmured in his heart. He had also noticed this problem. He felt that there seemed to be some kind of hidden tacit understanding between him, Audiobook and Zhou Zi. This sort of tacit understanding was very wonderful, especially between him and Audiobook. Both of them had this feeling, but they couldn't quite put their finger on it. It was clearly his first time meeting Qin Zong, but he had directly agreed to work with this stranger. This was definitely not his style. Given Audiobook's usual strict attitude, it wasn't his style at all. Unfortunately, this time, it was a special case. Because he felt that Qin Zong was inexplicably familiar, and there was an indescribable sense of intimacy. However, he didn't show it. He still had a cautious look on his face, but he had already let down his guard a little. Let me do some calculations. If we can win tonight's underground fight, we'll have at least 3,000,000 silver gear coins as our starting capital. If we can enter the core area and sell this bronze arm, we can directly become the landlord, Qin Zong said with a smile. Ha, so. Audiobook nodded indifferently. In fact, he was lucky enough to discover this problem as well. Despite Qin Zong's excuse that it was Zhou Zi's good luck, the change in his luck was obvious. Audiobook knew that he had never been a king of luck. Although his current career path wasn't bad, he couldn't be called a true king of luck if he was lucky once in a while. A true king of luck was the kind of person who had especially good luck no matter what they did. Last night, he had spent 648 on 3 orders, but in the end, he had only gotten 3 guarantees. How could he be called a king of luck? As for Zhou Zi, there was no need to even mention him. It was obvious that he hadn't been born with extremely good luck, otherwise his leg wouldn't have been so tragically amputated when he was young. So based on Audiobook's judgment, the real problem probably lay with Qin Zong. This person, his luck is really a little strangely good. Audiobook sighed sadly in his heart, but he didn't show it, and decided to keep observing him. Brother Zhou, I thought we were already in the same boat after what happened just now. But why are you so hostile towards me? Is it because I didn't do well? Qin Zong folded his arms and looked at Audiobook with a gentle smile. The average girl wouldn't be able to withstand this star face, which looked like a protagonist's smile. Audra couldn't help but be glad that he hadn't brought Kyoko Ryoko along. Maybe his wife would have been abducted. Don't think that we're already friends, it's just a purely cooperative relationship. Audro's voice was cold and his face was devoid of emotion. He looked angry, but in fact he wasn't, and his heart was even a little calm. In the end, as soon as he showed this attitude, Qin Zong suddenly laughed. I say, brother Zhuo, don't tell me you're a tsundere. Audro's eyes widened and his face was filled with horror. Nonsense. I don't know what you're talking about. Hearing this, Zhou Zi couldn't help laughing. In fact, he also felt that it was a little. After all, he had lived with Audro for a while and knew very well that he wasn't a tough person, so it was very unnatural for him to suddenly become tough. Of course, given Zhou Zi's clever little brain, how could he not have guessed that Audro's cold attitude towards Qin Zong was actually still out of vigilance? But Audro's current double talk reminded him of his Shifu Ryoko. He couldn't help exclaiming in his heart. TSK, as expected of a couple. After living together for a period of time, even their personalities had become the same. On the side, Audro saw Zhou Zi snickering. Qin Zong knew that he had probably guessed right again with his nonsense. Then, he curled his lips. Let's go, I won't talk about this anymore. It'll hurt our friendship. I'll treat you to a drink. He then stretched out his hand to push Audra and Zhou Zi's backs, leading them down a path. Audra, do you know the way? Don't walk blindly, Qin Zong laughed. I don't know, but it's definitely this way. Audra, this kind of self-confidence again. And now, it seemed that Audra was starting to understand Qin Zong's self-confidence a little. It was possible that this guy also knew that he was a very lucky person. A providence cultivator. Was there such a person in the world? Audra was dumbfounded. After pushing Audra and Zhou Zi for a few steps, a very shabby-looking snack bar actually appeared in their line of sight, and the drinks on sale were ones the three of them had never seen before. Although the drinks were different, the types were more or less the same, and even the style of marketing activities was similar to that of the outside world. Young man, what do you want to drink? There's been a soda promotion recently. Then let's buy a bottle of soda. Qin Zong nodded, then pointed to a drink that looked very much like Fat Otaku Cola. Audra laughed. Aren't you going to treat us? Shouldn't you be spending your own money? Qin Zong nodded. Of course, I'm a man of my word. He then unscrewed the cap of the bottle in front of the boss. The boss pushed up his glasses and squinted to see the words under the cap. One more bottle. Seeing this, the boss also laughed and took the cap. Forget it, young man, you're lucky. You don't have to pay, this bottle is for you. Qin Zong nodded in satisfaction at the expected situation. Then, he reached out and casually took 2 more bottles of soda from the shelf. The boss, you have to pay me 2 silver gear coins, young man. Qin Zong smiled, then unscrewed the caps of these 2 bottles of soda and gave them to the boss. Another 2, 1 more bottle, this. The boss had an incredulous expression on his face. The probability of this, 1 more bottle, activity was clearly only 1%. But there were actually 3 bottles in a row. Thank you, boss, I wish you a prosperous business. Qin Zong thanked the boss politely. Then, he opened the bottle cap and handed it to Zhou Zi and Audra, fulfilling his promise. Audra took a sip and savored it carefully. The soda in the slums of the technology city was actually orange-flavored, and he could actually taste like his childhood. He looked at Qin Zong and asked with a smile, do you often skip orders like this? Qin Zong shrugged. Brother Zhuo, you call this skipping orders? I was just a little lucky, that's all. He knew that what he was doing was actually a little unkind, so he gave the boss his blessings before he left. Based on his blessings, the boss of this snack shop should be able to continue breaking records in the next few years. Ah, Joie, I can see your ability, you were lucky. But why didn't you unscrew the cap after paying? It's very inconvenient to drink without a cap like this. Chin Zong, on one hand, didn't you say that you wouldn't spend our money and wanted me to treat myself? Of course this is the best way. On the other hand, directly opening the cap is actually for the boss's own good. Ah, Joie and Josie. Chin Zong sighed. Have you ever experienced what it's like to empty out a supermarket with the money for a bottle of soda? Ah, Joie and Josie, are we going to the boxing arena next? Chin Zong nodded and smiled brightly. Of course. This is a chance to turn over the money we have in our hands. Ah, Joie secretly rolled his eyes in his heart. He thought to himself, who's with you? Just as the three of them were about to head to the underground boxing arena, not far away from them. Three cloaked figures appeared, and one of them was trembling slightly under the cloak. I knew it. I knew it. Jayamiya Ryoko hadn't expected it. She had just found Ah Joie when she saw the scene of the three people buying drinks from afar. But she wasn't in a hurry to reunite with them. Instead, she chose to follow them secretly. In the end, she saw the scene just now. The pretty boy who had just appeared next to Ah Joie had a dubious tone as he kept saying our money and the money we have, which made Jayamiya Ryoko feel unwell. Ryoko, calm down, it might not be what you think. Lotus Sun dropped her forehead into her hand. We agreed that we would only bring Z over. It's one thing for him to bring Z, but why is there another man next to him? It was clear that Jayamiya Ryoko was very angry now. It's just a man, you don't understand, Rong. We girls are actually under a lot of pressure. It's not enough to just guard against women. You have to raise your awareness. Tell me, do you think a normal man would unscrew a bottle cap for another man? Ah Joie isn't a girl, why would he do it for him? Doesn't he have his own hands? Jayamiya Ryoko said angrily, and that person just now seemed to have said our money. What our money? This Ah Joie actually dated a third man outside and didn't tell me. He's even hiding a little stash of money. If he was short of money, he could have asked me. He could have asked for as much as he wanted. It's not like I don't have. Ryoko, calm down first. Lotus Sun didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She felt that Jayamiya Ryoko was really too sensitive. Senior Golden Lamp, please help persuade him. Under the cloak, the monk's voice was cold. Monks have long since seen through the world of mortals. Please forgive this poor monk for not being able to understand the love and affection of the secular world. Hearing this, Lotus Sun could only sigh and look at Jayamiya Ryoko to comfort her. Ryoko, don't worry. It's all on your own now. We don't know the specifics yet. I think they were talking about some boxing match just now. Do you want to go and have a look? That's fine. Jayamiya Ryoko nodded. But the currency in this world is a little different from ours. It doesn't seem like we can do without money. We can't enter that kind of place without money, right? Let me think. Lotus Sun was also having a headache in this regard. In fact, she had been thinking about legal ways to make quick money in this world in a short period of time ever since she entered the land of nothingness and discovered that the currency wasn't usable. Just then, Monk Golden Lamp suddenly said, "Look, someone seems to be putting up a notice over there." Lotus Sun frowned. It looks like a wanted poster. Wanted poster? Speaking of which, if it's a wanted poster, there should be a bounty, right? Jayamiya Ryoko's eyes lit up. With a wave of excitement, the three of them gathered in front of the wanted poster and began to look at it carefully. According to the wanted poster by the police in the Technology City, It was a pair of middle-aged men swindling people. They had swindled a shop owner out of 2,000 silver gear coins. But at present, there were only sketches provided according to the victim's description. Since the sketches couldn't be identified through the database, it was suspected that they were unregistered residents or had disguised their faces. Anyone who could provide specific information or clues would be rewarded with 20,000 silver gear coins. P.S. Please help me boost my sales at the end of the year. As Jayamiya Ryoko looked at it, she suddenly felt that the two sketches looked a little familiar. Rong, don't you think these two people look a little familiar? Lotus-san was instantly clear-headed by these words, as if enlightened with wisdom. She was horrified. Wasn't it just a little familiar? This was Li Xian and Zhang Ziki stealing. Chapter 1647. Although Kamiya Ryoko really didn't want to admit it, she indeed felt a little irrational at that moment. When she thought about Audjoie, she felt like she couldn't think straight anymore. When they arrived at the nearest police station, the three of them stopped in front of it. By establishing a group chat window, Lotus-san and Kamiya Ryoko realized the telepathic communication between the two girls, ensuring that unrelated people wouldn't hear them. Lotus-san, Yoshiko, do you really want to go in and report Senior Li Xian and Senior Zhang Zipi? Ryoko sighed. Actually don't want to, especially Senior Li Xian, who is the benefactor of our Ryoko family. However, these are extraordinary times. But have you ever thought about it? Even if we sell out the two seniors, we'll still have to pay the price. With just a few tens of thousands of yuan, I'm afraid the people in this underground boxing arena wouldn't even take a look at it. Under her cloak, Lotus-san had a helpless expression on her face. Although she didn't understand the rules of the underground boxing arena, however, based on her basic understanding of the circle of the rich and powerful, such a place was opened underground because it could not be brought to the public, and the entry requirements were also very harsh. Otherwise, if he was especially rich, he might be able to make an exception. Just like that, the scene fell into silence again. About a few minutes later, outside the police station, there were two AI service robot police officers carrying a man covered in blood out of an off-road police car on a stretcher. The man's body was covered in blood-stained bandages. His entire right arm had been severed, revealing the wiring inside. It was still emitting a sizzling sound and sparks. Inside the police station, a middle-aged man with a big belly and wearing a coffee-colored windbreaker walked out with a cigar in his mouth. His lower body was very strange. He didn't have legs, but two treads. He looked very much like a human-shaped tank. As soon as the man appeared, the intelligent mechanical police officers in the car saluted him. Chief Daikes. The middle-aged man waved his hand and puffed out a mouthful of smoke. He looked at the man under his eyes with a slightly resentful expression. How many rounds did he last? He made it to the fourth round. Unfortunately, he didn't make it, the robot police replied. Their voices had a kind of electronic sound effect. When they spoke, it felt very comical. However, in the face of a reply, their reaction speed was very shocking. It was as if they were real people. What a pity. Just one more round and he would be able to enter. I'm afraid I can't stay in this restaurant anymore. It's boring. Amidst the middle-aged man's sigh, the buzzing sound of the person on the stretcher disappeared just like that. He had completely breathed his last. On the side, Lotus-san and Kamiya Ryoko felt uncomfortable watching this. Mysterious C's healing sword chi was only effective on humans, and there was nothing Lotus-san could do about a cyborg whose body was half mechanical. Why don't you send him to the clinic first? The doctors at the scene have determined that there is no hope. There is a shortage of spare parts in the clinic. If we can't cure him, it will take up resources. How pitiful. The middle-aged man said, forget it, just send him home. Also, you must pay the compensation as stated in the contract. Understood, Director. Then, 2 robot police officers carried a stretcher and put the poor dead man back into the car. Watching the police car leave, the middle-aged man called Daikas suddenly turned to look at Lotus-san and the other 2. Are you 3 also here to be my fighters? What, are you so scared that you can't speak after seeing a dead person? He laughed. I'm joking, I don't expect 2 girls to fight for me. The little brother next to them looks soft and tender, and doesn't look like he's a martial artist. The 3 of you are brother and sister. Kiya Ryoko awkwardly denied it. Not siblings. I'm just curious about the boxing field. I remember that Mr. Jian Xiaoqiang and Mr. Niu Baoguo are going to fight tonight, right? The semi-finals are over, right? She tried to worm information out of him. Unexpectedly, not only did this man called Daikas not find it troublesome, he even thought it was interesting for a girl to ask about such things. He took a puff on his cigar and said slowly, "You women don't understand the fun of the rich and powerful. Before the finals, there is a dojo challenge. You have to challenge a total of 5 rounds to qualify, and then you have to fight last year's dojo challenge champion to warm up before the match. Even the finals aren't as good as this. Because it's a fight for life. Between the 2 of them, one has to die. That person just now signed a life and death contract with me and was sent over. That person is doing it for his family. In a slum like this, of course it's for his livelihood. If he hadn't stood up to fight for me, I'm afraid he wouldn't have been able to pay off the debt his family owes." Daikas smiled mockingly. But it's a pity that he's already at the 4th round. If he could break through the 5th round and challenge last year's dojo challenge champion, he would get a full 6 million. He would be able to jump out of this slum in one fell swoop. 6 million. Silver gear coins. No. Gold gear coins. Daikas's voice grew louder. And it's not just 6 million. There's also a pass to the core area. I made an agreement with that man just now that I'll provide the registration funds and the entire fee. He'll fight for me, and if he wins, he'll get 3 million. The remaining 3 million and the pass are mine. I see. Lotus-san and Kiya Ryoko nodded. They had a general idea of the situation. And judging from the director's description, this person wasn't too bad, at least he kept his promise with the man on the stretcher. So, the finals are just for the fun of betting among the poor. The Dojo Challenge champion is the most exciting. But last year's Dojo Challenge champion was very strong. I think he's going to make a meteoric rise this year. Because so far, no one has passed the 5th round. If no one is his opponent, he'll have to enter the core area lying down. Then who was last year's Dojo Challenge champion? Lotus-san asked. In fact, last year's Dojo Challenge champion was Mr. Niu Baoguo's master, Hu Baoguo. Last year, not only did he single-handedly challenge the 5 pass lords arranged by the bigwigs, he also used only one move to kill the Dojo Challenge champion the year before last. One move. Yes. One move. It said that when he used it, he was so fast that people couldn't see his movements. By the time they reacted, he'd already hit the ground. Those who saw it at the scene only saw a flash of lightning and thunder. And this move was also called by him Lightning 5 consecutive whips. The more Dekar spoke, the more agitated he became. The veins on his forehead bulged, and he had to rub his twitching temples. I'm sorry, I was too agitated and talked too much to you girls. Mr. Director, can I give it a try? Just then, Ryoko Kyuko took the initiative to step forward. Lotus-san and the monk's eyelids twitched when they heard her request to fight. They hadn't expected Ryoko to do this at all. Of course, Ryoko wasn't just throwing her life away. She had just estimated the realm of that seriously injured man, and felt that he was at the peak late golden core stage. With the ghost talisman on her, she might be qualified to challenge him on her own. At the very least, there was Monk Golden Lamp to vouch for her, so it was very safe. You? Daikas laughed. A woman shouldn't join in the fun, although you don't look like one. Blue veins popped out on Ryoko's forehead. What do you mean? Daikas chuckled. Of course I'm talking about your chest. It's so flat that you're hardly a woman. Don't even think about the dojo challenge. As soon as he said this, he suddenly felt a powerful wave of negative energy in front of him. Ryoko mobilized the power of the ghost talisman and smashed her fist heavily into the ground. In her mind, she imagined Audra cheating on her, and with a man at that. Under this double fury, coupled with Daikas's precise lightning strike, Ryoko Kyuko instantly erupted with unparalleled destructive power. Boom! Ryoko smashed a 10-meter deep hole in the ground in front of the police HQ, and the nearby ground cracked as if there was an earthquake. Hiss! Lotus Sun and Monk Golden Lamp sucked in breaths of cold air at this scene. A woman caught in the act of adultery was indeed terrifying, and the most horrified was naturally this director Daikas. After being stunned for less than 3 seconds, his face instantly lit up with delight. Ha 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 ha. Who would have thought? Even I, Daikas, would make a mistake one day. Miss, I'm sorry for my slip of the tongue just now. I shouldn't have looked down on you and even attacked you. Although, Dekars didn't think that Ryoko Kamiya would grow breasts. As a man who had seen countless people, he could basically understand this with just one look. Ryoko patted the dust off her hands and looked at Daikas. There's no need for a life and death contract. In any case, I'll definitely win. But after I win, the pass is yours. As for the prize, I want 5 million gold. Interesting. Daikas laughed. Then, it's a deal. But there's still less than 5 hours before the finals, which means you'll have to challenge 5 levels in a row. But there's a problem. 5 levels plus the dojo challenge king from last year, right? I, Ryoko, am not afraid at all. So your name is Ryoko? Daikas rolled his eyes. How about this, I'll get you a fake identity, and you'll be called Ryoko. No one uses their real names in that underground boxing ring. They all use fake identities to go in. Then can you get one for my junior sister and junior brother? Ryoko Kyuko took the opportunity to ask. Oh, so the two behind you are your junior sister and junior brother. Got it. Since it's Ryoko, oh no, it's Miss Ryoko's request, I'll definitely do it. Wait for me here, I'll get someone to make new IDs right away. Daikas was so excited that he rushed into the station. Seeing him leave, Ryoko hurriedly looked back at Golden Lamp, and then at the monk with a pleading look. Senior, can you help me, enlighten me? Golden Lamp, he knew it would be like this. Chapter 1648. The entrance to the underground boxing arena in the slums of the Technology City was in a deep alley on 5th Ring Road. Deep in the alley was a sealed manhole cover, which was open to reveal the entrance. At the mouth of the alley were gun-wielding mechanical cultivators. These brawny men blocked the entrance tightly like a human wall, adding a layer of mystery to this restricted area. When Audra and the other two arrived, they were swept back and forth by these people's gazes. Audra shrank his neck back and had a faint sense of foreboding. It wasn't that he was afraid of these brawny men with big heads and thick necks, but inexplicably felt a strange coldness behind his back. And this wasn't the first time he had felt this coldness. It had actually been there ever since he had bought the drinks. Until now, when it had become more and more intense. After showing the ticket to the underground, one of the brawny men spoke in a gruff and low voice devoid of any emotion. One ticket can only allow 2 people in at most. Chin Zong was quick-witted. He took out a stack of silver gear coins and smiled, revealing his pearly white teeth. Big brother, how about you make an exception? I was also introduced here by a friend. I came here to play, I don't know if I can still buy more. The brawny man took the stack of notes and sniffed at the fragrance. This stack of silver gear coins amounted to 100,000, which was actually not a small sum for Odd Joie and the others, who were in desperate need of funds. But Qin Zong was unusually generous, and the corners of his lips curled up. If this big brother doesn't mind, you can share the money with our brothers. The brawny man with the paralyzed face smiled coldly. At least you know your manners. Then come in. He then gave the other brawny men a look, and they straightaway made way. So it's the boss here. Seeing this scene, Qin Zong knew what was going on. Just as the three of them entered the alley through the human wall, Odd Joie noticed that the brawny man who had taken the money had followed them in and seemed to want to say something. Sir, is this your first time here? Yes, it's my first time, Qin Zong answered truthfully. The odds for the final are 1-6, and most people think that Jian Shaochang will win. But there's no point in betting on the final. The brawny man said in a gruff voice, if this is your first time here, I suggest that you play a dojo challenge. The odds were 1-60. However, the entrance fee for this place is 1 million silver cog coins. Mister, you seem to be quite generous. Do you want to play something exciting? Qin Zong's eyes lit up. He had just tipped the burly man 100,000 yuan, so he had exactly 1 million yuan left. Following behind Qin Zong, Odd Joie and Zhou Zi sighed in their hearts. All these coincidences were so natural. It was as if everything had been planned. Odd Joie now realized that perhaps Qin Zong hadn't just been lucky. He might be the embodiment of luck, 60 times the odds. If he could win, they would get 60 million silver gear coins. Qin Zong's face was full of interest. Then how do we get in? The muscular man revealed an ugly smile and walked straight to the innermost part. He opened a manhole cover hidden under a blanket. Gentlemen, please enter from here. This is the VIP passage. I see. Thank you. Qin Zong nodded. You're welcome, sir. I wish you good fortune. After saying that, the brawny man watched Qin Zong and the other two go in with a smile on his face. Then, he covered the manhole cover and carpet again. The underground boxing arena in the VIP area was a little different from what Odd Joie and Qin Zong had imagined. These people were dressed in bright and beautiful clothes. Just from their appearance, they already looked like poor people. Odd Joie frowned slightly. These people are from the core area, right? He could roughly guess a few things from the scene in front of him. The odds in the finals were only 1-6, so in the end, it was just the poor people's plate, while this dojo challenge was the real deal, where the rich and powerful looked for excitement. At the betting counter, a lot of people were discussing the dojo challenge. What a pity for that man earlier. He was already in the 4th round, but in the end he was violently beaten up and carried away. Only I, great general who can win this dojo challenge. In my opinion, treasure who will definitely win this year's dojo challenge. A middle-aged man with a big belly laughed fiercely. Holding a goblet, he spoke carelessly as he swirled the red wine in his hand. Don't celebrate too early, Boss Zhu. The competition isn't over yet. A rich lady with bright red lipstick smiled coldly. There's only 4 hours and 52 minutes until the betting deadline. I don't think it's possible to pass 5 rounds in a row and challenge last year's champion in less than 5 hours. The middle-aged man called Boss Zhu didn't hide his rampant laughter at all. He was a supporter of last year's dojo challenge champion, Hu Baogua. At that time last year, Hu Baogua had caught the eye of an descender who wanted to leave the slums, who had provided him with the starting funds to participate in the dojo challenge. This so-called ascender was the kind of person who had already accumulated a certain amount of money and wanted to escape poverty and move to the core area. 2 years before the dojo challenge, an ascender had come to participate on his own, but in the end, he had died a violent death. Later, an ascender had come up with an idea. That was to sign a hired thug to participate in the competition on his behalf. After the competition, the ascender would get his pass, while the hired thug would get his own money. With this money, the hired thug would have the capital to continue participating in the competition the next year. Furthermore, he would become the second year's arena master. The dojo challenge had been held for dozens of years now, and this was already an unwritten rule. Director Daikis, who was working with Ryoko Kamiya, was in fact one of the ascenders. These people were chatting animatedly. Ajwa, Chinzong and Zhou Zi also understood what was going on. That was to say, the new challenger had to first defeat the 5 past guardians chosen by the bigwigs. Only after succeeding in all the challenges would he be able to challenge last year's dojo challenge king. The most important thing was that these past guardians all had spare tires. Once they were injured, they would be replaced by a new person. That was to say, no matter who challenged them, the first 5 past guardians would always be at full HP and MP. It doesn't sound very easy. Do we really have to bet? Ajwa frowned. Even he felt that the rules were too harsh. There were already less than 5 hours left. They had to challenge 6 people in a row. Unless there was a huge disparity in strength, this was almost an impossible task. This director Zhu was also well aware of this, and he laughed again. As far as I know, the only one in the 10th ring who still has spare cash to sponsor the competition is that director Daikis. However, it was a pity that the hired thug he had just sent was already dead. There are less than 5 hours left. It's not like he'll force a duck onto a perch and randomly grab someone on the road, right? As soon as the man finished speaking, a roar of laughter rang out in the hall. Qin Zong ignored him and walked over to the betting counter. He took out the storage bag and asked, "Hello, can I still bet now?" "Of course, sir." The betting waitress gave a professional smile. "Please help me bet that this Mr. Hu Baoguo loses." "Lose?" "Sir. I've checked, there are 1 million silver gear coins in your storage bag." After the waitress said this, a lot of eyes turned to Qin Zong. Qin Zong smiled slightly. "Please put me in." Chapter 1649. The voice was not loud, but it attracted the attention of the people around. There were less than 5 hours left, and the fighters that Director Dekars had signed were all dead. There was almost no one in the entire 10th ring who had extra money to fund the next match. Zhu Yuanrun was not wrong at all. He was a big shot in the circle of influential people in the core area, and he actually had some shares in this underground boxing ring. What Zhu Yuanrun did not expect was that someone would bet on Hu Baoguo to lose after hearing his analysis. In his opinion, this was something that was impossible to accomplish. "Young man, you're quite impressive. You bet 1 million silver gear coins right off the bat. This is probably your life savings, right?" Zhu Yuanrun chuckled. Although he was a little annoyed that someone did not listen to his analysis at this point in time and forcefully went against his words. But in fact, Qin Zong betting on Hu Baoguo to lose was actually beneficial to him. Because he was the one who bet on winning. What he was profiting from was this steady business. After he was sure that no one could challenge Hu Baoguo, he immediately increased the bet and raised the odds to the current one. 72-60. Because of the huge capital, even if it was won 72 times, it was still enough for him to make a lot of money. Qin Zong's bet only gave him 1 million more. He could not help but laugh in his heart. He would not be able to find a charity business like this that gave away money for free. In the end, just as he finished his sentence, The deafening sound of a gong rang out in the VIP area. Someone is beating the war drum. On the screen in the hall, a skinny cloaked man wearing a black cloak and a mask, accompanied by two other cloaked men wearing the same mask, and Dekars, who was grinning from ear to ear, appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Dekars. Why is it him again? Didn't his contracted fighters just... Zhu Yuanrun and the surrounding dignitaries opened their mouths wide at the same time, looking at this scene in disbelief. That Hu Baoguo was rumored to have unfathomable strength. Although the participant list said that he was at the peak of the late Golden Core stage, in reality, this realm was just fishing. This would cause people to mistakenly think that Hu Baoguo was very weak, and thus lower the overall standard of those hired thugs. After all, the signing fee of each thug was based on their realm. For example, the Golden Core stage fighter that Dekars hired previously was hired by him based on the data on the paper. This was Zhu Yuanruan's secret operation. However, he didn't expect that this person couldn't even pass the 4th round. In reality, Hu Baoguo was a soul formation stage cultivator. For a soul formation cultivator to appear in the slums, it was already shocking enough. On the other hand, the person that Dekars found was ridiculously skinny. In Zhu Yuanruan's opinion, it would be difficult for him to even pass the first 3 tests. This Dekars. Is there something wrong with his brain? Why did he find such a short and ugly man to compete with? When Zhu Yuanrun said this, Daikas entered the venue with Lotus Sun, Jiu Gong, and Jin Dang. As soon as she entered the venue, Ryoko Kwamiya heard Zhu Yuanruan's arrogant voice. Under the cloak, her body trembled slightly. This damn fatty actually said that she was, calm down, Ryoko, you mustn't be exposed. Also, this Dekars did indeed label you as a boy on his fake identity. It's all for cover. Cover. On the side, Lotus Sun used team voice to remind her. Ryoko Kwamiya took a deep breath. In her heart, she repeatedly said things like, the world is so beautiful, but I'm so irritable. The golden lamp's light blessing spell on them perfectly concealed their auras to ensure that Jua and the others wouldn't discover them. Sharing the king's eye was indeed very powerful, but it was worlds apart from the real king's eye. As long as the light blessing spell was strong enough, it would be impossible for the king's eye's power to penetrate it. So now, they were being blessed with version 4.0 of the golden lamp's light blessing spell. Although the effect was temporary, it greatly increased Ryoko Kwamiya's fighting strength. When they entered the hall, Lotus Sun had been worried that Jua would see through them. After a brief exchange of glances, in the end, Jua's gaze quickly shifted away from them. She couldn't help heaving a sigh of relief. That was close. Look, Rongrong, that person keeps looking at Jua. He hasn't even stopped once. Ryoko Kwamiya was utterly exasperated with jealousy. In addition, Zhu Yuanrun had just said that she was a boy, and her anger had already reached a critical point. Dekars was fully in charge of the admission procedures for the dojo challenge, and it took less than 10 minutes for Ryoko Kwamiya to get her pass. When her name appeared on the big screen, everyone's eyes twitched. Kwamiya. Who was this person? A golden core hatchet man, and one that no one had ever heard of. Dekars, you're pushing this kid into a fire pit. Look at how skinny he is, he hasn't even fully developed yet, right? Why did you call a girl who hasn't even fully grown yet? Zhu Yuanrun had a teasing expression on his face. Pushing into a fire pit. What do you know? Dekars completely ignored what Zhu Yuanrun said. He had already seen how powerful Ryoko Kwamiya was, and naturally didn't care what others thought. Although Ryoko Kwamiya's asking price was indeed higher than that of the dead male hatchet man, his ultimate goal was the pass. As long as he could get the pass, everything would be worth it. Kwamiya. Are you ready? Let's show them real magic. Dekars folded his arms and smiled confidently. Magic? In a sense, this could indeed be called magic. After the procedures were completed, there were only about 4 hours left. Zhu Yuanrun and his men were mocking them on the surface, but they were actually stalling for time. To challenge 6 people in a row in these 4 hours was simply unrealistic in the eyes of others. But when Ryoko Kwamiya walked into the boxing ring under everyone's gazes, Zhu Yuanrun still sensed that something was wrong. "What's wrong, Boss Zhu?" A manservant under Zhu Yuanrun came over and asked. When he saw Zhu Yuanrun raise his hand, he knew that the boss had something for him to arrange. "Go and call the 5 strongest people that we specially prepared for the dojo challenge. They will be the 5 past masters of this dojo challenge." Is this necessary? I feel that something is wrong." Zhu Yuanrun frowned. He knew Dekars the best. Under normal circumstances, he wouldn't do useless things. Of course, the main reason was that the confidence on his face scared Zhu Yuanrun. About a few minutes later, the first past master that Ryoko Kwamiya would face had come to her. This was a man with 8 mechanical legs. People gave him the nickname, Yogurt. "The first person is Crab." Zhu Yuanrun sneered. "This person looks extremely clumsy, but he is extremely fast. Extremely agile. And most importantly, these 2 iron gloves of his, they are the work of that lord." "That lord?" "Yes. Although that lord is just a disciple, even if he is a disciple, these iron gloves are enough to be fatal. This is a fish that surpasses the fear of death." "I see. It sounds very strong. And look at President Zhu, the man in front of him isn't wearing any gloves. Heh, barehanded. He's courting death. A fist that surpasses the fear of death." Kamiya Ryoko was startled, and immediately clenched her fists tightly. Indeed, she wasn't wearing anything, only 2 delicate, meaty fists. But after version 4.0 of the illumination spell, she had nothing to fear at the moment. "That damn fat pig," he actually said that this lady is a man. Recalling what Zhu Yuanrun had just said, Ryoko's anger rose to the max again. Facing the crab in front of her, who was much smaller in size, she went up and waved her arms. Boom! No one saw Ryoko's punch clearly, they only saw a dazzling golden light flash before their eyes. There was a loud explosion between the 2 of them. After the light dissipated, Ryoko withdrew the smoking fish that had pierced through the crab's lower body. "Next!" she roared in a disguised voice. Although this voice had already been modified, Odshua still couldn't help trembling, and for some reason, from the beginning, he had felt that this person's fist seemed a little familiar. Chapter 1650. The Immortal shows the way. Punching the way. At the scene, a commentator cried out in surprise. Everyone was dumbfounded looking at this scene. It was really hard to believe that a fledgling newcomer could actually use the Immortal Guides the Way to defeat the burly crab. Fortunately, the crab's lower body was almost entirely made up of spare parts. Although it was connected to the pain nerves, it was not fatal. This punch seemed terrifying, but in fact, the crab only needed to replace the spare parts. But it had to be said that Jamiya Ryoko's punch had indeed hit the crab's vital point, trapping his body in place and making him unable to move. After finishing off the crab, Jamiya Ryoko felt the fire in her heart surging, and she could no longer hold it in. This was just an ordinary punch. In the end, the commentator explained it as, "Immortal shows the way." Jamiya Ryoko didn't think she was an old boxing master. Her usual fighting style was to summon ghosts to assist in battle. She was a cultivator of the summoning style. So in fact, she didn't know any boxing techniques at all. She just used the crab in front of her as a sandbag to vent. What is this Gong's background? Zhu Yuanruan's expression changed. Among the 5 gatekeepers he had sent, this crab's comprehensive strength was already above average, but it was so easily taken care of. This was something he had never expected. His face was filled with nervousness. After thinking for a while, he whispered to the manservant beside him, "Go, tell the black dragon to bring that thing. If necessary, use it. You must ensure that this unknown person is intercepted within the 5th gate, or fight with him to buy time." "Yes." The manservant nodded and immediately retreated to do as he was told. In the spectator stands, Zhou Zi noticed this scene from afar. He was observant, especially the manservant standing beside Zhu Yuanrun, who he had been secretly observing for a long time. Brother Zhua, and Brother Zong. That person is going back and forth, as if he's up to something. Qin Zong smiled. Zi has good eyesight. Maybe he's preparing some kind of prop. Zhou Zi was not stupid, and he quickly thought of stimulants or something like that. If this was a regular boxing match, this would definitely be against the rules. But Zhou Zi forgot a very important premise, and that was that this was an underground boxing arena. It was a shady place. It was a place where the rich and powerful in the core area used their money to expose their evil interests. And in such a place, all kinds of shady things would exist. You don't have to worry too much, Zi. This Mr. Gong will definitely win. No matter what tactics they plan to use, Qin Zong crossed his arms and said calmly. From the moment he chose to bet on Hu Baogua and ended up losing. Luck was no longer in the hands of Zhu Yuanrun and Hu Baogua, the 2 big traders. Zhu Yuanrun wanted to earn a stable income, but the appearance of this palace had disrupted his overall plan. He didn't need to think too much to know that his opponent would definitely resort to some dirty tricks in the next few stages. However, no matter how dirty it was useless as long as he was here. It was only a matter of time before he used his luck to clear his name. He might even shoot himself in the foot. It could be said that everything up until now was within Qin Zong's expectations. However, it wasn't that there weren't any surprises. This was because Qin Zong noticed a strange phenomenon from the moment the man called Gong defeated the crab. Zhua, who had been standing next to him the whole time, was still trembling slightly. And for some reason, his complexion didn't look good. "Brother Zhua, are you feeling unwell?" Qin Zong asked. This voice made Zhua, who was deep in thought, shudder again. "No. I'm not feeling unwell," Zhua replied. His gaze was fixed on that incomparably fair little fist in the boxing ring. Although he still couldn't quite believe it, the more he looked at this hand, the more familiar it seemed. After all, he had only used Ryoko's hand a while ago with her permission. That kind of comfortable rhythm was something that couldn't be compared to when he was doing it himself. Zhua remembered. That had been his first time, and also Ryoko's first time. He had never been touched by anyone other than Ryoko, and it was also Ryoko's first time coming into contact with this kind of thing. Thus, this incident had left a deep impression on both of them. At least for Zhua. He had carved every inch of Ryoko's hand into his bones. But if this person really was Ryoko, why had she appeared here to fight in an underground boxing ring? And who were the other 2 people in the cloak? All kinds of questions lingered in Zhua's mind. Given the current situation and his understanding of Ryoko, the first person he thought of who would be able to fool around with her recently and get close to her, was Lotus Sunday. As for the remaining person, he was definitely an almighty figure. Gu Xuanji, Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch, Monk Golden Lamp, all of them were possible. At that moment, Zhua's mind was spinning rapidly. If his inference was completely correct, then what was the reason for Ryoko and the others to hide their true identities, since they had already come to this illusory world of nothingness, why didn't they acknowledge him? Audra couldn't figure it out no matter how he thought about it, and had a very bad feeling about it. When he raised his head again, he found that Ryoko had already dealt with the 4 gatekeepers. There were still a full 3 hours before the dojo challenge ended. The last person she had to face was Zhu Yuanruin's strongest trump card, Black Dragon. Compared with the others, Black Dragon didn't have much of a showy appearance, and looked just like a normal human being. His muscles were well developed, but not exaggerated, and were just the right type. At the same time, his skin was dark, and even the whites of his eyes were completely black. Apart from the fact that his eyes are a little strange, this person looks very normal, Zhou Zi said at that moment. Hee, little brother, is this your first time watching Black Dragon's match? A spectator sitting next to Zhou Zi in the stands laughed at that moment. He was covered in jewels from head to toe, and his 10 fingers were covered in glittering jewel rings. At first glance, it was obvious that he was a dignitary living in the core area. But from his tone, this person was very friendly, and without waiting for Zhou Zi to ask any questions, he continued, a true mechanized cultivator is in the bones, not the skin. Take the crab from before, for example, he looks mighty and domineering, but in fact he's very easy to target. But Black Dragon is different, he's that lord's masterpiece. That lord? The founder of this technology city? Audra asked. Qin Zong was also very curious about this. Because Xu Yuanran had also mentioned this word before. Although the stands were very far away, given Qin Zong and Audra's hearing, it wasn't hard for them to hear. No, just his disciple. But everyone is used to calling his disciple that lord, the rich man said with a smile. You're actually willing to talk to us? Hee, why wouldn't I be? We're on the same side. The rich man shook the bet in his hand. I'm also betting on Hubaogua to lose. Of course, apart from that, we might have some other connection. Audra frowned slightly. Sir, what do you mean? Leaning on his cane, the rich man smiled leisurely. You should be Mr. Grenade Throwing's people, right? Chapter 1651. Audra carefully sized up this wealthy businessman, who looked very much like the Lord of the Rings and whose 10 fingers glowed with the light of jewels, and couldn't help feeling a little suspicious. There seemed to be something wrong with this person. If he was a native of this technology city, it stood to reason that he shouldn't know about the outside world. The more he looked at this wealthy businessman's eyes, the more he felt that they were somewhat familiar, as if he had seen them somewhere before. Very quickly, he suddenly thought of something. You're Mr. Ming. Hearing Audra's words, the rich businessman's face visibly twitched, and he couldn't help laughing out loud. AI, how boring, I thought I'd be able to fool him for a little longer. Audra was utterly stupefied. He hadn't expected this wealthy businessman to actually be Wang Ming, but how on earth had Wang Ming done it? Possession. That was clearly impossible, he wasn't a cultivator. Could it be that he had used mental energy to control him? But in this world of nothingness, which was completely isolated from the outside world, no matter how smart Wang Ming was, he shouldn't be able to do this, right? I originally wanted to have a chat with this Shouchong, but unfortunately, someone beat me to it, Wang Ming said as he borrowed the wealthy businessman's body. The greatest advantage of controlling one's psyche was that this kind of disguise was almost impossible to see through. If it wasn't for the fact that Audra had done some research on the 2 Wang brothers and had strong observational skills to be able to distinguish the details, he probably wouldn't have been able to connect the dots so easily to Wang Ming. Naturally, luck had played a role in the speculation he had blurted out just now. Audra never thought that he would be right. Mr. Ming said that Shouchong has been captured and brought here. Audra suddenly felt that the clues in this matter had become tangled and complicated. His original goal had been to follow behind Zhang Zidong and Li Xian, and his main goal had been to help Zhou Zi. That's right. Shouchong has a miniature transmitter that I developed and designed. When my brain waves tracked the device, it felt like I had accidentally fallen into a space-time crack. Left with no choice, I could only separate a portion of my brain waves to get out of danger, Wang Ming said. Wang Ming said, after a short period of time, the separated brain waves were transmitted to this space. The gecko cutting off its tail? Audra asked. Yes, you can understand it that way. Using the rich merchant's body, Wang Ming nodded and said, but this is an alternate space, after all. My separated brain waves were very weak, and I couldn't stay in this state for a long time. There was no other way, so I could only find someone who looked very rich to control. I see. Audra asked with concern, then isn't Mr. Ming in danger? I don't think it's dangerous. In any case, this separated brain wave is similar to your cloning technique. It won't affect my body. It's just that the duration is very limited. Wang Ming laughed. Fortunately, the fatty I possessed isn't just rich. His IQ was not bad either. In this way, I could generate new brainwaves through his brain, supplementing the brainwaves that I had separated from my main body. But with this method, the production is less than the consumption, so I won't be able to sustain it for too long. As Zhou Zi listened to Wang Ming's explanation, his mouth dropped open. Although he had no idea what Wang Ming was saying. Even so, he could understand the basic situation. The rich merchant sitting in front of them wasn't communicating with his main body, but had been possessed by some senior whom Audra knew. On the other side, Qin Zong was also very curious about Wang Ming's appearance. Could an ordinary human who wasn't a cultivator actually develop the human brain to such an extreme level? He marveled in his heart. Once again, he felt that the world was full of extraordinary things. Although he had accidentally fallen into a strange place from his original world, it now looked like he hadn't gained anything at all. Audra was full of admiration. As expected of Mr. Ming, only Mr. Ming can do something like this. Wang Ming waved his hand, and at some point, he had started to learn to be modest. No need for formalities. I already know who this brother Z is. Why don't you introduce me to this brother with a very pale face? His name is Qin Zong, and he seems to be a strange man who fell from another space. After saying that, Audra whispered in Wang Ming's ear, Mr. Ming, there's something strange about this person. I feel that his luck is exceptionally good, Qin Zong. Wang Ming mulled over the name carefully. Then, as if he had suddenly been struck by something, he shuddered violently. Qin Zong, wasn't this the name of a character in the game cultivation emulator which Bai Qiao had designed back then? He had also participated in the development of this game back then, so it was still fresh in his memory. Of course, that wasn't the crux of the matter. The crux of the matter was that he remembered testing it back then. He had once created a character called Qin Zong in this game, and his luck value had been set to max. Interesting. Wang Ming couldn't help laughing in his heart. He looked at Qin Zong without batting an eyelid. He didn't dare confirm that Qin Zong and the character Wang Ling had created in the game were really related. But if this was true, it could also be considered strange news. Thus, Wang Ming took the initiative to stretch out his hand. Hello, Mr. Paperman, Qin Zong. Realizing that he had let the cat out of the bag, Wang Ming stuck out his tongue in an attempt to brush it off. Sorry, I was thinking about something else just now. Hello, Mr. Qin Zong, nice to meet you. Wouldn't it be a huge loss if they deleted them? Wang Ming shrugged and said, like me, it's directly uploaded to my brain, so I can stream it anytime, anywhere. 0 of the light blessing spell. The person who is blessed has the right to use it to fulfill a wish. In a critical moment, this poor monk will be able to take over the body for the time being by silently reciting the Great Mercy spell. Is this okay? It's not a problem. In this poor monk's 1,000 lives, I've experienced being a woman.